All right. Oh, man. All right, well, it's good to have everyone tonight. I'll call this meeting to order. This is the Destin City Council meeting, August 7th, 6 p.m. And at this time, I will call this to order, and we'll start with a moment of silence. If everyone can please stand. Thank you. Councilwoman Hebert.
Please join me with your hand over.
All right, at this time, I will open for any motion for the agenda approval.
Mr. Mayor, I want to pull 3A and discuss it separately, please.
3A. Anyone else have any additional?
I'd like to pull 3B.
3B.
3B, where is it?
All right, anything else?
I think we
Yes.
have one more here, which has to do with the carpet at the library, 3C.
ABC.
There we go.
I need to add an item for the Destin History and Fishing Museum 5K
Okay.
Under your name.
under my name.
All right, adding one, pulling three. So I will have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. Motion and a second. All right, call the vote. All right, ayes have it, so moved. At this time, we will do the public portion comments at this time. Just come up here one at a time, hit the button, it'll turn red. You have 3 minutes. We just need you to say your first and last name and your address on record, and I will let you know when you're running out of time.
Jimmy Perkins, 748 Benning Drive. I'd like to take this time to thank our mayor for last week going out with the congressman for support on Crab Island for the vendors. It used to be just me out there and Robbie for years and years. I've been vending out there for 18 years. But you look behind me, and we've got all kinds of entrepreneurs out there now that's doing their own thing. The mayor stepping up like that, going out there on a limb, having the city staff for 6 months try to find the loophole to hold the national parks off of us, and having the congressman come down here, we appreciate it. You guys only hear from us when we're mad about something, so we figure we better come out and tell you when we're happy and see if we can get some more of you councilmen on board. Over the years, I've graduated hundreds and hundreds of kids out there on the island. That has been like the #1 spot for college kids to work, get their money to go off to school. My resume is doctors, lawyers, engineers, chemical engineers. I'd put it up against anybody, all the kids that's graduated from me. You're going to hear from some ladies in the audience here that's got their own business out there, that if the national park is allowed to put it up for a bid, they call it a bid, but anybody that knows anything knows it's going to have to be $10 million put in a bank account to show that you can secure a 10-year bid with the parks. And I don't think any of these young business owners right here got $10 million to throw up in an account to hold off somebody else. So we all know who's going to get that bid. I could lay up an envelope right here, and you could open it up, Mayor, the day after, and I could tell you exactly who gets it. Okay, so it's not a bid. They're awarding to the whole park to somebody that's got deep pockets. Okay, we support you guys. Hopefully, you'll support us on this. And like I said, over the years, I've got over 200 personal life saves out there on the island. These kids in here and these business owners, up into the thousands. So, I mean, you guys would have a lot of, from tourniquets to drown people, CPR, helping the Coast Guard find a missing kid. We've done it all. So we're not just out there collecting money. We're out there doing a public service. Do we make a little bit of money along the way? Yes, you know, but we do contribute, and so we'd like to see some support from you guys. The mayor stepped out big time, and the city staff. I know what all you guys been doing. I want to thank you. We truly support what you guys did for us. Okay. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to some of the ladies, and some of them talk a little bit, so let them run a little bit. Okay.
All right, thank you.
You guys got nothing better to do tonight.
All right.
Do I repress it? No, just name it. Okay, perfect. Hi, everyone. My name is Michaela Parton, and I live at 30 Moreno Point Road. I want to first thank the Mayor Wagner and the council for allowing us to be here today. I am here representing my business, Wild, those adorable coconut boats you see on the water in Destin, and the 100 businesses and vendors that currently operate, making their living at Crab Island. I grew up in Destin. I am the only daughter of Eric and Darlene Parton, the pastors of Shoreline Church, who purchased the infamous nightclub Nighttown and turned it into a blossoming church and safe space for all in our community. I vividly remember my first day navigating my homemade coconut boat packed with fruit out to Crab Island. As I passed huge boats towering above me, I remember feeling this strong sense of connection to my roots and to my family. This, making a hard-earned living on the water, was where I was from and what we were all about. A dream of many generations in Destin. I felt them with me at that day and still do every single day we push out from shore in pursuit of this Destin dream, our American dream made a reality. I am here because I want to show our city, our community, our nation, what my business and businesses like mine mean to us. And I am here to petition those listening to join us in the fight as the federal government and the National Park Service threaten to take away our rights to operate at Crab Island in order to give those rights to one highest bidder. I started Wild 5 years ago. We build our unique coconut boats by hand in the backyard of the legendary Matt Ronk's home on Calhoun. I spent many an afternoon there covered in fiberglass watching the sunset over the bay, quite literally watching my business I had dreamed about become a tangible reality. Wild now has over 150,000 followers across our social media platforms. People from all over the globe know about our city because of the unique and creative business that I, together with these wonderful young adults behind me, have built. We consider ourselves ambassadors of our hometown, the welcome team of Destin. We're not just in the business of selling fresh fruit. We're in the business of creating unforgettable memories for families that have spent their hard-earned dollar to come and visit us and our community. When people come to Destin, they want to go to Crab Island, and they want to see the Coconut Girls. From starting with just me in one boat, Wild has grown to over 4 unique vessels and employs over 15 young adults. They are well-trained and highly qualified, as our business complies with many regulations put upon us in order to operate every season. They are the most hard-working people I've ever met. Plus, they can cut a pineapple from start to finish in 15 seconds flat. The future of Crab Island isn't just about me, but also about them and the community they are fortunate enough to be a part of. This is about their future businesses that have yet to be started. This is about teaching them to dream, that with hard work, determination, and drive, you can make something of yourself. I've watched many of them put themselves through college, buy their first cars, or get out of debt using their hard-earned pay from spending all summer working at Crab Island. Mine is just one of the many businesses that has brought value to Crab Island and to our city by providing something fun, healthy, and family-friendly. These regulations impact our planning and ability to grow as we are constantly operating under the looming cloud of not being able to run in the following season. It won't benefit tourism and won't benefit our community. It also won't address safety, law enforcement, or environmental concerns. It seems to be a heavy-handed attempt to apply more regulation with no actual purpose. There was no actual trade-off. We are only allowing the federal government with no understanding of how the National Park Service got the jurisdiction of our waters in the first place to step in and decide who the winners and losers will be. This would be a clear loss of what living the American dream is all about. I am asking our local and state government to step up and into the fight with us and for us. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, up next. Anyone else?
I gave her a little bit extra time, Jimmy.
Yes, sir. You know how this works, right?
Mike Abity, 530 Harbor Boulevard. On a different topic, I don't know how many of you are aware the U.S. Coast Guard started a task force a few months ago, and it covers Mississippi, Alabama, and Florida, and it includes about 10 different agencies, including the Florida Marine Patrol and the Sheriff's Department that are included. Weekend before last, on the 29th and 30th of July, they busted 5 illegal charters operating in and around Destin. Now realize that the Coast Guard handles Coast Guard rules and regulations. They don't have the authority to enforce City of Destin codes and code enforcement. So be aware that all the violations and all the illegal livery vessels and bareboat charters, and it also includes fishing. Some of the ones they busted were fishing charters, so it's not just delivery vessels, it's the fishermen also. I'd like the council to consider the fact that you've opened a new park on Calhoun, you've opened a new park on the harbor, you're fixing to open another new park by the bridge in the future. All of these are rife with people picking up and dropping off passengers at these locations. They've been rampant doing it all year. And I'm talking 20, 30, 40 different operators doing this. This is a list of the citations that have been issued by code enforcement for the months of May, June, and July. See a blank page? 0 citations. Warnings or written citations have been issued. And every time I call and I ask and I inquire, the thing always comes to the one thing. We don't have the money, we don't have the staff, we don't have the manpower. Guys, I hope you realize that you're creating new places for these people to operate and pick up passengers. You need to reach in when you have my request is that when you have your budget meeting in September, that you dig deep down. If you're able to find $9 million to buy a piece of land, get a couple $100,000 for the code enforcement. Let them hire 1 or 2 guys. I would like to see 1 guy designated as well, we can't have a harbor master because he can't work on the harbor. Call it a park ranger. Let him work the parks. Let him work the things I'm telling you where they're picking up illegal. Park ranger, boating and waterways, officer, whatever you want to call him. Let's give some extra money. Let's find some funding for code enforcement so they can hire the staff to do the job that you guys should want them to do. Thank you.
Hey, Mike. Thank you. Mr. Abady. Yes, sir. There's 2 things. One, you want to recheck, rerun your numbers. There was one just about less than a week ago.
I said
down the dock behind that park. Just want to let you know.
By the park,
and
wasn't it?
2, there is a budget currently to increase staff that hasn't been approved yet, but we are working on that. Just let you know.
Backward, when you look at what I said earlier, the months of May, June, and July, I think that was done in August.
All right, I'll give you that one, Mike.
All right. Name and address.
Timothy Singleton.
Oh, just put your button on or hit the button.
Yeah, Timothy Singleton, 501 Gulf Shore Drive. I came here in June with my neighbor complaining about no enforcement of traffic on Holiday Isle. Kind of the sense that we got was that you guys didn't take us seriously. The Destin log definitely felt like that. The headline says Okaloosa Sheriff's Department says it's on patrol in Destin, and the numbers prove it. And there's a lot of big numbers thrown out there. 5,500 stops happen in Destin out of 8,000 in Okaloosa County. It sounds big, but it's not. The numbers don't prove it. 5,500 stops in Destin is only 15 a day. There's 5 officers on shift per day in Destin per shift. So that's one officer every shift making one stop his whole shift. 15 stops a day, 5 officers on a shift, 3 shifts, 1 stop a day in the whole city of Destin. The numbers don't prove it. She goes on to say Holiday Isle, there was 80 stops last year. Well, that's a whole 1.5 stops a week. That's 0.2 stops a day. I went out yesterday from 12:20 to 12:50, and then again from 6 to 6:30 and counted cars at the intersection in front of Destin Point on the way to Noriego. In the afternoon, 141 cars went through that intersection, and in the evening, 148 cars for a total of 289 in that 1 hour period. Let's just say that there's only 12 hours in a day. That's still 3,500 cars that go through that intersection in a day. Out of those 289 cars, 30 cars stopped. So about 10% stopped at that stop sign. 32 cars went through it like there was no stop sign there. And this is only in an hour-long period on a Sunday, not a Saturday. 227 cars just rolled it. We don't care about the cars that are just rolling it. We're worried about the 32 cars that are going through that 20, 30 miles an hour while people are riding their bikes, crossing the street with their dogs. We brought this to the council's attention, and we expect something to be done. I know we're spending $9 million on, beachfront. Destin's kind of turning into Daytona Beach, so I don't know how much that's going to be worth. I know that the Okaloosa County Sheriff spent a lot of their time in Destin. That's because Shalimar has 742 residents. They have a police department. They have 3 officers. Valpy, 4,800 people. They have 10 officers. Fort Walton, which is closer to the size of Destin, has 49 officers. That's at least 12 officers a shift. Niceville, 15,000 residents, 33 officers. That's 8 officers a shift. Destin has 5 Okaloosa County Sheriff's officers per shift. Do you think that's enough? Do you think that's enough? It's not. So you need to do something about it. Next meeting, I'll bring video so you can see it, because words aren't enough, but it's hard to deny with your eyes when somebody's blowing through a stop sign at 30 miles an hour because they know nothing's going to happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Sabina Sunguzi, 36 Gardet Place. I'm here on behalf of the Okaloosa County Commission on the Status of Women. The Okaloosa County of the Commission of the Status of Women, or OCCSW as we call it, was established by the Board of County Commissioners in 1995. So its purpose is to eliminate barriers to achievement for women through research, education, and communication, and to recognize and honor women who have made significant contributions towards improving women who have made such great strides for our county. We have 15 members in total. Each each county commissioner elects 2 women to the commission, and the rest come from women's organizations in the county. In 2019, we formed a fiduciary part of our commission, which we use to raise funds for the county. And that would enhance our community outreach. I'm here today as the 2023 chair of the OCCSW to raise awareness of this organization and to gain support of you all for the work that we are doing for the tremendous women of Okaloosa County. And I am pledging for the city of Destin to be more supportive of what we do. I've been on the commission, this is my 3rd year. Everything I see on the commission is based Fort Walton, Niceville, Crestview. I'm not seeing much coming out of city of Destin. And as a resident of the city of Destin and the chair of this commission, I'm really asking for your support and help. We meet every Monday, last Monday of the month, and each year we honor women who in our county have made some incredible work for the county. In May, around Mother's Day, we have people who nominate women in their lives or those in the public service, and we honor them on the Wall of Honor, which goes at the library in Fort Walton Beach. In August, and also this coming August 28th, we have a Hall of Fame where we have women who've done incredible stuff in the county honored. Each year we do this. Currently, the commission is working on 2 projects, one of which is the end of Stop Human Trafficking. If you've all seen the movie Sound of Freedom, this is where it's based. We're a tourist destination, and this is our contribution. We are asking you to put these in any of the public city places or any of the businesses in the city of Destin, to have these in the toilets, something somewhere where someone can then, just scan the code and report anything that they see that's suspicious. Okay, and then lastly, we're also working on mental health issues. We have heard from the residents of Destin and Okaloosa in general that mental health is a really tough issue. And people don't know where to go. People don't know who to, they cannot afford the services. So this is what we are doing. So thank you, and hopefully I gain your support by being here today.
I'll get with you at the next break and get you my information. I'd like to get involved, okay?
All right, any other public comments? Yes, sir.
Red button? Right. I'm not sure that this is the right venue. I was told it was by the nice ladies over at the annex. I wanted to file a formal complaint against one of the council members. Good evening to the other council members. Teresa Hebert. Robert McPherson. Sorry, 708 Main Street.
Okay,
First of all, I'd like to thank you guys for putting in the speed tables on Main Street. It's helped, but you still get people flying down there over them, but it's been a long time coming, so it's nice to have them down there. In any case, recently, I've been in the house for over 22 years now, and I've never had any complaints, never had any problems with any neighbors at all. But in the recent months, I've had several complaints about my vehicles in the yard, which nothing's really changed over the years. I have a beach service. I run Hobie Cats and jet skis and the like, and build boxes, all that stuff. But I've had several complaints that I've had to deal with code regarding my vehicles parking in the yard, which I've done since I bought the house. And it's almost becoming of a harassing nature at this point, because I feel like I'm being targeted, and I've never even met this person, never said 2 words to her. And all of a sudden, I've got this rash of complaints about my vehicle being parked in my yard, not on the driveway. And I've owned the house for 20 years plus. And it's just getting to where it's, I think, out of control. Matter of fact, Friday I came to speak with the code people, and by the time I got back home, there had been another complaint, and I had a citation at my house for a $100 fine for parking in my yard when I was at the city hall talking to folks about it. So I don't know how that gets addressed, what other steps I need to take, but I'd like to see it addressed somehow.
All right, thank you.
Just so you know, your neighbors have asked me to ask you not to park in the front of your house in the yard, and they don't want you to come do anything to them, so that's why they asked me to inform code to come and tell you. So that's just part of the environmental rules of the city of Destin. You can't park in your front yard. You have to park in your driveway.
There are several houses around the city of Destin that do, and I have been for 20 years now. And as the code states, it's on an improved surface. And I do have an improved surface where my cars are parked. So just so the council knows that.
All right, thank you so much for your time.
We'll address the complaints in the proper process at the special magistrate.
All right,
Thanks.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, anyone else? Public comments? Name and address.
John Frudiger, 501 Gulf Shore Drive. Over here a couple months ago with my neighbor. Since that meeting about a week later, like he stated, you're rolling a stop sign less than 5 miles an hour. We're not even considering that like rolling the stop sign. That's kind of a destined stop, unfortunately. But we called the Okaloosa County Sheriff's, and people are blatantly blowing through it like it's not there. I said, they're right there. Why aren't you stopping them? And he specifically said, we don't make money off of traffic stops like that. How does that even make sense? I further explained to him, you know, when you're a kid and your parents leave town, you might have a party because there's no authority there. You might have that one kind of delinquent friend, you go party at their house because their parents don't care. Their parents are there, you're still having a party. Destin's turning into the house because the cops are there and they're not doing anything about it. It's a stop sign. But like I also mentioned in the last meeting, the tourism here is kind of getting rough. I mean, Crab Island last weekend was evident of it. It's like we need to do something. And like you say, if you can spend $9 million on a piece of property that's not even beachfront with no future plans as of today, it seems kind of wild to not have a police department. Like I said, we have 4 million tourists a year. It's $275,000 a month. It's throughout 12 months. We have 14,000 residents. Smaller cities have more police presence than we do. What's the plan? That's not rhetorical. What's the plan?
I mean, I'm happy to speak with you after, but we can't really go back and forth all day up here on the public comment. So everything you want to address, go ahead, and I'm happy to talk to you after, and we can all make our own discretions on future communication.
All right. One last thing. 4th of July weekend, big holiday weekends are kind of wild. I knew the cops weren't going to be around, so I took it in my hands and I put a sign that said "Cops Ahead," kind of give the illusion that they were going to be there. Hell, we just need to put those signs all over the city because that did more work than
I saw that photo online.
the Okaloosa County does. So maybe we can invest in some yard signs and maybe get with code and let those fly a little bit. But maybe that would be more of a police presence than Okaloosa County Sheriff.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comments?
Carrie Harbarger, 307 Mountain Drive. I wanted to actually bring a little truth and make a couple comments about this Crab Island situation because I might not can stay. I want to say that probably you won't find anybody more knowledgeable about the way that rolls than myself, since I've had contracts with the government now for 20 years. This isn't anything new. This isn't anything the Department of Interior just zapped or the Biden administration decided to come. This has been going on since 2018. I got drug up to Eglin by the security there because let me take it back, it might be more than 3 minutes, but I think that it's important that we know what we're getting involved in. Years ago, I was brought into the Eglin Securities up there because my lease involves the 9 beach accesses on Okaloosa Island. There were a lot of businesses there that were doing illegal businesses. This was in 2017, 18, and 19. And I documented it by taking pictures, and I was actually in contact with the MPs about it. And that's exactly why that ended up getting shut down, because the community wouldn't work with the MPs. But I'm not quite sure that the base commander gave us a lot of opportunity. I didn't like how all that played out. But I went in 2018 and I met with Miss Claudia at Security Forces over at Eglin, and she made it perfectly clear that they were well aware what was going on Crab Island. There were millions of dollars going in. They were trying to figure out how to get a hold of it. But what was driving force and what the big weight has been all these years has been JAG. This is so solid, guys. They've crossed their T's and they've dotted their I's, and I hope there's something that you guys can do, because let me tell you something. This whole gimmick is designed for one person to take it. One person. Put 88 businesses under one person. This has been going on for years, 2018, that I've documented. Now, I mean, I have my documentation, but Matt came over here acting like he's saving everything, and I can appreciate if he does something for us, but it goes a lot deeper than with Mr. Gates. Hopefully he can help us because he sits on the Ways and Means Committee, but the truth is that even some of our county commissioners knows that this has been going on. They want their piece of the pie, guys. They know how much money's coming through Crab Island, and they want their piece. It's been going on since 2018, and I documented it. So this isn't new. So let's Matt Gates, I hope he helps us, but he needs to come to this area and be truthful, because the truth is one person wants this contract, and they probably already know who that person is. So while I support Mr. Gates, coming here not being completely honest was not okay with me. That's been going on. So in their mind, they've got somebody that's probably going to take it over and make a whole bunch of money. So if anybody wants to get with me on a little bit more knowledge, look me up. But this is what it is. It's all designed. They've already got that one person. They're going to put that $13 million up. So putting 88 businesses out isn't in the need, and I hope that this council supports that. Let it be. Let everybody get their business permits and stuff. But this started even before the alcohol was being served on Crab Island, and everybody knows where that took us. And that brought the attention to the Department of Interior, but it didn't really go to the Department of Interior. It was taken to the Department of Interior in 2018 by JAG in Pensacola. And if I dig deep enough, I can have everybody's names and numbers from that. Miss Claudia ran the security forces over there. When I went on there without a badge and sold on my contract, I had guns pulled on me. Now it's a free-for-all. No, this is important. This is my livelihood, and furthermore, the council needs to understand that Mr. Gates isn't being completely honest. I mean, I hope that he does something for us, but there's there's millions involved. So don't let anybody.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
All right, anyone?
Brian Otto, Indian Trail, or 3826 Indian Trail. Well, school starts next week, so figured I'd come back up here and ask about those speed tables on Indian Trail. Bus stop is right there at the corner of Indian Trail and Jupiter, maybe, right? They go about 900 miles per hour through there, so next week the school will start, so thank you. Oh, probably every time I come up here too, I'll probably say part-time employee benefits. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. All right, anyone else?
I thought we directed that go to Public Works, Public Safety, and they were going to bring us back, or, well, they're reworking the plan, number one, to see if it warranted a speed table. So where are we on that?
Michael's going to give this update.
All right, any other public comments before I close? Oh, my bad, I'm sorry.
Yeah, right after that gentleman came and made that request, we experienced some problems with our speed monitor, but we've gotten that remedied, and we'll go out there and take a look at that section of Indian Trail as soon as possible. And we'll take it. We have a Public Works and Safety Committee meeting next Tuesday, and we'll take it there as well. Put it on the agenda.
Okay, yeah, because I didn't see it in the last meeting's minutes, so that was part of this agenda. So I was a little curious what we were doing.
All right, any further public comments before we close this portion? No. All right, thank you. All right, so I'm going to close the public comments at this time. And before we get to the consent, I am going to ask if any of the council members would want to direct city manager and attorney to write a supporting resolution for Crab Island and hope.
I'll make that motion, Mayor, to have our staff bring that back to the next meeting, supporting resolution.
That's in the agenda, number one, and the agenda is approved, so can we wait until we get to where it was?
On what number? Oh, Ray did that to me. Yeah, thank you, Ray. All right, fair enough. So you want to just withdraw your motion for me so we keep it clean?
I'll withdraw.
All right. All right, so at this point, we will go through
I'll approve the
3A.
consent agenda minus A, B, and C.
Yeah, we got that, right? So now we're going to go through the consent?
No, but Kevin's going to make a motion.
For-
I'll second.
All right, thank you. I'm losing my mind today. All right, calling the vote.
Approve consent agenda without A, B, and C.
That is adding.
And
my item.
adding,
Yours was,
that was in the consent. Dewey.
so Councilmember Sweetster, your item was added under your name. This is just the consent agenda. So you're looking at what's under the consent agenda minus A, B, and C.
Okay. That would,
Dewey's having some trouble with
Clarification, thank you.
his remote.
should have voted just once.
All right, we're just gonna, all right, we're doing roll call then. Kevin?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
All right, thank you. All right, and then Ray, clear that? All right. So now we're going to go 3A, and whoever pulled 3A, you take the floor.
Ms. Crystal, and I believe the good colonel is here somewhere. There he is. Yeah, Ms. Crystal, you want to start out, and then I will ask a few questions.
Okay, so here we have the quarterly investment report, and it's in the format of our new investment policy. So Table 1 shows you the current fair market values of by type of investment. Then we have $7 million that is available to be invested, but it's currently sitting in cash. As you understand, I've been raising cash to accomplish the purchase that we're going to do that's coming on later in the agenda of the One Harbor Boulevard. Next, we have Table 2, which shows our income earned for the quarter, year to date, and it also shows the change in fair market value. We have a change in fair market value year to date of negative $289,000, but we have realized $392,000 in actual interest income. Then we have Table 3, which is comparison of the City of Destin against two benchmarks. One is the ICE Bank of America 1-year U.S. Treasury, and the other is Florida Prime. Then we have the maturity dates with the weighted average maturity of our portfolio, also by investment type. Then we have additions and deductions. So you see the contributions I've made in prior years. I haven't made any contributions this year to date. And you see the interest earnings year to date, the administrative expenses, and so forth. So there you see the full it's about $16.7 million that we currently have with Raymond James. And then we have our investment fund balance so that you can see what is part of our committed fund balance, which is 3 months of operating expenses for emergency operations. It's about $3.6 million, and an equivalent amount in the emergency maintenance account, and then 1 year of debt service in the debt service account, which brings us to the remainder is basically unrestricted investments or investment of unrestricted cash. And with that, I'm open to questions to me, and I know that Brian is here in the audience, so we're both here to answer your questions.
Councilman Bagby, take it away.
Yeah, so when you read this, probably two or three things jumped out at you. Number one, the unrestricted cash at Trustmark to the tune of $7,328,000. And while her intentions were honorable and good, and she was trying to help figure out how to find the money so that we could write a check for a piece of property that we still can't write a check for, because even when we take the money, the cash that's in the Harbor CRA and the cash that she's accumulated in this account, we're still short for the Harbor parcel. And what that doesn't show in Table 1 is that there's also $5 million that is in Trustmark in cash. That is the minus 3 months of general fund operating. So basically, we've got $12 million that is earning us 0.1% interest. That's terrible. And I don't think we're going to do that again. We had a good discussion, Crystal and Lance and I, about laddering money, investing money, and the tail wagging the dog, because the people, I don't care how soon they want to close or when they want to close, they'll close when we write them a check for $9 million. And if that's next March, that's next March. We don't not invest our money. And I think everybody's clear on that now. Would you say we're all clear, Lance and Crystal?
Yes, sir.
So, the other thing is the performance of of the money that is invested. It's bad enough we have 12 million that's earning 0.1%, but if you go down, I believe it's table 3, and I'll let Brian come up because I'm sure there's a rationale. And we did change the investment property, but that shouldn't have depressed the return on the investment, because what we changed the investment property from was from BBB plus investment grade bonds, which actually will pay a little bit higher interest rate than what we've gone to. Now, he probably moved that, but we've given such latitude. I mean, half the things we have set the trigger at 70%, but I would just like for Brian to explain why in the quarter we're at a negative 0.13%, whereas our two benchmarks, one's at 0.45% and one's at 5.33%. And for the last 12 months, our investments are at 0.31%, where the two benchmarks are at 2.05% and 3.48%. So I'll
Hello, and thanks. I'd like to first say that I'm disappointed that the crowd didn't want to stick around for this riveting discussion on financials in the city of Destin. So I'll try to make this a little bit more exciting for y'all. The first thing I'd point out is that there's several different things that are going on here with this report, not only in regards to the performance, but in regards to the benchmarks with which they're paired against. And the first one would be logically in regards to what we talk about every single time, which is the mark-to-market situation. On the mark-to-market, that simply says that if you buy a bond, if you buy a CD at 4% and interest rates go to 3%, and somebody says, well, I don't want 3, I wanted your 4. Well, you can get more than par to sell your CD in the aftermarket, and vice versa. You buy a bond at 4, and the rate goes to 5%, and somebody says, well, why would I want your 4% when I can get a brand new 5%? Well, you got to buy it at a discount, in order to get to what's the yield to maturity, which means they all work out at the end the same. So we have a situation where interest rates, as you know, has climbed very, very quickly. So that means that the mark-to-market shows us at a negative, when in fact that is not an accurate number, and we just are stuck with having to report mark-to-market because that's just the way that the system is now. And there's really, unfortunately, not a better way to do it, except to say that if you look at your report and the lengthier one that, kind of is rather boring and people stare at it blindly most of the time, but it's all the sub-reports of the sub-positions in each one of the accounts that we have here. We asked Eagle to place in there on the far right side a column called book yield. Book yield is your current relative yield that those particular bonds are paying. And if you look at the top of each one of the accounts, you'll see where it is, they've got an averaged out book yield. Now, we don't have an entry for every one of the positions because we actually had Eagle create this for us so we could give an example to you guys as to how this works. But if you look, you'll see like 2.2 in the city of Destin, and then the alternative investment account is 3.06. Ladies and gentlemen, that's more of an accurate number as to what the city is getting for their performance versus mark-to-market. Additionally, on the one-year rate comparison, we did get a double whammy with that a little bit because as Mr. Bagby pointed out, what we had, the resolution that y'all approved, not all y'all, but that was approved about a while back, said that we wanted to do away with BBB rated bonds. And in short, investment grade bonds go from AAA to BBB, and then BB is actually considered junk. There's no happy median. It's either investment grade or it's junk or high yield. And in this case, BBB is the lowest rung of the high quality bond ratio, and the council decided that that was a piece of the puzzle that they didn't want to invest in. I just met with the portfolio manager 2 weeks ago in Dallas at the Raymond James Annual Convention, and he had mentioned that kind of removes his ability to do business to the best of his ability. That BBB area is where he can really make the sweet spot. So that hurt us in the short term because some of those bonds we had to sell at a loss and in order to clear out for the new resolution. So that kind of bit us a little bit. And then lastly, I would just point out that so that kind of hurt us on the 1-year comparison of the benchmark. But that prime rate, this is something that y'all may not know, and we've talked about it years past with different councils, but that is a facade number on the prime rate. That number is not real. And the reason why, and I don't know why, but if you look at the prime's numbers, that is a 90-day look back. So it's the yield on, when you look at the prime's return, it's the yield on new money. So any monies deposited in the last 90 days or invested, it's what rate that they are getting with that new money right now. So if you compare it to their other numbers that they put on there, they put on their performance on their numbers, and then it says next to it, 30-day average yield. The numbers are almost identical because a 90-day and a 30-day is almost the same thing. So they're not doing a look back like we're doing on ours. It is just a 90-day picture, and it doesn't correlate. So that's always been something that we've always wondered why we have it in there. We kind of had to put something in there for a benchmark, and it was before we found that 1-year rate deal that we got in there now. But it's not fair because it's not real. And I think that answers, hopefully, most of your questions on that part of it. Any questions on that so far?
Anyone else? Seeing none on the board? All right.
The reason I don't have any questions for you, Brian, but the reason I bring this up is we're probably at the limit of our debt, and these numbers are actually important. And when we're giving away, whether it's $20,000 or $50,000 or $100,000 in income from interest, that on $14 million that we didn't have or $12 million we didn't have invested, or whether we're getting a lower rate than even the lower benchmark, because I agree that the prime does have some challenges with it. These are important numbers because it's going to get critical when push comes to shove and we're sitting here about a year from now and we're talking about whether or not we have to raise our millage rate because we have to pay off our debt. That's not a choice. That we have to pay off our debt, and that's why we need to know who's paying it off and where it's coming from, whether we take money out of something or whether, and as we all know, we're one storm away from not having anything in the unrestricted reserve. So that's why I just want to make sure that everybody understood what's going on with our money, because I think we can do, Eagle can do better. I think we can do better, but we all got to do better, because if we don't, a year from now, we're going to be kind of sad. Thank you.
Right. Councilman Destin?
Oh, sorry.
And I agree with Mr. Bagby. We have that money sitting that's not earning interest. Even the banks are paying 5% now. So that's not where we need to be. When are we going to make the change to make sure, 30, 60, 90 days, we could put that 14 million in there, and you can do the math. That gets to be real money. So how quickly are we going to take those deposits out of a zero yield and put them in something that's going to make some money for us?
I would add that we also have, and you have in your IPS the flexibility to have up to 25% of your total assets in money market accounts. Our money market's paying 5.2 or 3 right now, and there's of course no limit to what you could put in a money market as long as it's a treasury-based money market, not the B-rated. And then also, of course, I would just say, if anything falls through on this land deal, man, I think interest rates are going to come back down. And when they do, you'll see the opposite side of the coin from what you see on the prime now. You'll see the prime go way low, and we'll get on the positive side of that and be able to take advantage of it. But if anything is that falls through, this is a great time to buy bonds or CDs right now.
Yeah, and of course, that's speculation, and that's the fun of playing in the market. But I know if I put it in the money markets, that's what the yield is going to be.
Yeah.
And so my question to staff is, when are we going to facilitate out of those zero interest into something at least that's a money market that's paying us 5% or so?
I could transfer funds to Raymond James tomorrow. I just need a confirmation from them that they can put it in that type of an account. But
Okay, I'll make that motion that we direct staff to invest the cash, unrestricted cash that is in Trustmark immediately in a Raymond James money market account.
I'll second that.
All right, any further discussions?
Just one other comment, and we discussed the fact that we tried to move away from the triple B. Well, triple Bs are not triple A, and this is the public's money, and even triple B, which is considered investment grade, is not, because it's not triple A, and those things always worry me. So we need to try and make that transition, and it is what it is. I'd rather make a little less and not put the money at risk.
All right, Councilman
I
Schmidt.
won't make that part of the motion, but we'll look for Crystal and Raymond James to make that happen.
Sure, I just have a question for Mr. Bagby.
I mean, the policy that you worked on, drafted, I mean, was this sitting here against that policy this entire time, or was it just not moved yet?
No, there is no prohibition against us having $30 million sitting in cash in a bank. There's none. And after talking with Crystal and Lance, I understand their rationale. I don't agree with it. I wish they, had said something to me, because.
So what is?
But that water's under the bridge. We should have laddered the money, or put it in a money market, or put it somewhere where even during normal circumstances, you would ladder it so that we have some cash becoming available at the end of May and the end of June and the end of July, and then you just reinvest that if we don't have a storm. If we do have a storm, then you take that cash out, and then at the end of August, you take that cash out. And
Gotcha.
So it is not in contravention to our policy.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we might have to have cash. She was acting on what she believed was the direction of the council, that we were going to buy a piece of property for $9 million, and.
Well, then we just started talking about that very
2 months
recently.
ago, yeah,
right?
2 or 3 months ago. But she was getting ready. The problem is that she was getting ready for something we should have told them. We don't have the $9 million. We'll buy it for $9 million, but we won't close till January 1st because we just don't have $9 million in cash sitting around. And she was trying to get us $9 million cash because we don't. It's going to take a while to float a bond.
Sure. So, Crystal, with the change that we're talking about, I mean, what impact does that have on anything that we're doing? Because there must have been a reason why this hasn't happened yet. So
Yeah, no,
now that we might make this change, what does that do?
When you first requested to start negotiating for the property, the hope was that we could get a better price for the property if we could promise a quick closing. So that's what I was aiming for. We don't have a money market account with Raymond James, but tomorrow I'm going to open one up, and so it'll be a safe place to keep the money for right now. But
Okay, but there's no implications once we move it to the money market?
no,
For the,
no, because that's still liquid, and I can still request a transfer to the escrow account on the day of closing.
Okay, all right, appreciate it.
All right. Seeing nothing further, I'll call the vote. All right, ayes have it, so moved.
And then I will make a motion to approve 4A.
I'll second that.
3A.
3A, I'm sorry.
I'll
yeah.
second 3A.
All right. Seeing no further discussion, calling the vote. Ayes have it, so moved. 3B.
3B, I asked to pull that one just so that your motion, if you are going to move to approve it, includes the condition that there can be legal review of it. There's just some cleanup items that need to be done.
Okay, I'll make the motion
A second?
to approve with the change to the legal review, pending legal review.
Second.
Second, yeah.
All right. Seeing no further discussion, calling the vote. All right, Councilman Destin, 3C.
Thank you. I was looking through the bid to replace the carpet at the library. It is $98,000, very close to $100,000. And I noticed we only had one bidder. And I also noticed that they were charging $10,000 to move the furniture. Now, a group of 5 men working 8 hours a day for 5 days would be paid $50 an hour each to move the furniture in 5 days. The point I'm getting to is this price, in my opinion, is way too high. And so, I'm going to make a motion that we reject the bids and go back out, because $100,000 for 12,000 feet of carpet, especially the way it's broken down, and the company, I don't understand why we're only getting one bid. We recarpeted schools every year, several at the district when I was on the school board, and we always got bids. So I'm not understanding how we're getting one bid. This company's from Vero Beach, which is not exactly local. There are no one in this county or this North Florida that does carpet, that cares to bid. Anyway, this. Yep. So my motion is to reject the bids and put it back out to bid.
All right, I got a motion on the
I'll
table.
second that.
Motion and second. Any further discussions on the rejection?
Is there anything from staff about why we have one, or should there be more, or is there, before we do that? Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of flooring companies in this area.
Right before it went out on the street, I contacted a couple of local carpet installers and made them aware of it. Got questions, no bid. I'm not sure why. I would imagine that moving 30,000 books and all the furniture associated, I don't know if that juice would be worth the squeeze for a lot of people, but we followed our process and we got one bid, unfortunately.
One bid is not enough, and that seems to be quite a bit more than it should be. And it certainly won't shut the library down for us to put it out to bid again. The carpet's been there for 20 years and 3 months. I think it'll be all right.
Councilman Sweetser?
Yeah, I attended the last meeting at the library. I also did not quite understand why we didn't have more bids or anything local. So thank you for offering, but my main question is how long is that going to process take longer to send out the bids?
Is it a 30-day or what's the bid window?
Typically, I like to put them out for at least 30 days. The clerk's office posts them on a couple of websites. There are, those bid-type websites, and it's on our website as well. And again, I did reach out to a couple local vendors and made them aware of it.
Okay. I think one of the things that was detouring a lot of people was the moving of all the furniture and the bookshelves. If we could get a group of all of us together or something, or hire a moving company to go over there and move them out of the way before they go.
We could get some junior high kids to do a field day and have them move some books.
Right. Yeah, there's ways that we can get that done.
Councilor Sweetser.
The carpet in there is pretty bad. It definitely needs to be replaced
I'm
as soon
sorry,
as possible.
One of the caveats of the bid was the library has to stay open. And I think that may have dissuaded a few people that they won't be able to close down the library for an extended period.
You think we get a better bid and more variety if we were to close it for a week or whatever that time period would be?
Or at least give them a stipulation of how many days they have. We're going to close it for X amount of days, not for, we tell them how long we're going to close it for, what y'all are comfortable with closing it for. Is that a possibility that we can discuss now, or y'all decide that?
Well, I just thought of...
Wait a minute, we have the librarian here. Can you give us your thoughts on how long we can close the library really logistically?
I was going to say if Wynn could speak.
Hi
up,
there.
please.
Okay, doing a reflooring in a library is a pretty complicated thing because all the books have to come off the shelves. They have to be put in boxes, and the books have to be stored somewhere. All the shelving has to be stored somewhere. And so getting all that stuff out of the way to recarpet it is one issue because I don't know that we have the storage in there to keep all of that while they're trying to recarpet it. Another thing then you're looking at is doing it in sections. And so while they're pulling up all the carpet, the other sections of the library that are still in place have to be covered up and tarped so that all the dirt and the dust and the stuff that they're pulling up is not affecting, the other part of the other things in the library. Now that bid that we have there, I believe it said they were doing 5 to 6 weeks to complete the job. There wasn't a lot of detail in there other than they knew that they were going to be working at night as to how it was going to be broken down, as which sections had to be done first. And then so staff are going to be in the library. A little bitty library, the one over in Valparaiso, they were closed for, I think, 10 days to put carpet in that little bitty building over there just because of all of the heavy shelving and books and moving and rearranging. So it is quite a process, and usually I try to find someone who's done libraries before to do it. The other thing that we're looking at is that this is August, and this is scheduled to be done then in this fiscal year.
Any other further? Yeah, I called the vote. Ray, can you cancel that? Gal, if you want to go.
I have just a couple questions. The library personnel, are they salary or hourly?
They're hourly.
So if we did shut down the library, are we agreeing that they're still going to receive pay? Because these people some people live paycheck to paycheck, or are we going to find something else for them to do so that they can maintain that income?
That was something that we, were waiting to find out about the bid so that we can talk about that. I mean, one of the things is that they would be in charge of course, taking the books down off the shelves and boxing them up and marking them so that we know which books are where, kind of thing. But I wasn't sure, depending on when the carpet people would be in there, how we would schedule all that. It definitely has to be scheduled, but that it has been a concern because we do have 6 full-time staff and then 4 part-time staff that will need to figure out something if the place is totally closed down, for them.
Well, I'll support an idea as long as they get compensated as normal, regardless, or we find something for them to do, but I don't want to see anybody miss an income for this project.
All right, any further discussions?
Point out the point about ever having done libraries before, I think is a good one. I did a little research on the company. The LLC has been in business for 3 years, and I don't see any other libraries on their list of jobs they've done. So they're probably a wonderful company. It's just when you have one bid, that should be an alert to all of us that perhaps we need to look at the price very closely.
All right, thank you. All right, so we have a motion on the table with a second. Does everyone know the vote? The motion is to deny. Yeah.
Okay, before we vote, are we going to change any of the conditions, i.e. that it has to be done at night or that it has to be, the library has to stay open, or we're going to make sure everybody's compensated? I mean, we've talked about a lot of things up here, but none of that's been addressed other than to reject the bid, which I totally support. I just want, before we vote, I want to know if there's any addendums to the reject the bid to change the parameters of the bid. And if there's not, we can vote.
My motion doesn't anticipate that. I'd leave that to staff if they have suggestions. My motion just anticipates that we need more than one bid. And I think if we talk to some of the folks around here, we will hopefully get other bids.
Yeah, that's fine. I'd love to have more than one bid, but I guess I'll just say I'm not in this profession. Mr. Frudiger might be, but $7.44 a square foot for this entire job, not including the labor of moving all that stuff. I don't think $744 per square foot is outrageous when I recently did some floors, but I could be wrong. So that's not high, I don't think. So I doubt we're going to save much money when we go out to bid, but I guess we'll give it a shot.
I did call a couple of carpet people who thought that was probably
way high?
Pretty high. Just
Okay.
their opinion.
Well, I guess we'll see.
All right. All right, we're going to call the vote. All right, round two. Ayes have it. And then,
Motion to approve that agenda item.
yep. Got a second?
I'll second.
Okay.
It came off and got denied.
Yeah.
Now it's in.
All right. Lance, I think the floor is yours.
Thank you, sir. First up, we've got number 1 Harbor Boulevard parcel and the purchase agreement that we need to discuss.
All right, does anyone have any discussion on this?
Do I make a motion to approve and get this
So
voted on?
if you need any information on it and you want me to discuss it with you, I will. Otherwise, a motion would be appropriate.
I'll make a motion to approve the purchase of Harbor One.
All right.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussions? Seeing none, calling the vote. Ayes have it, so moved.
Resolution 23-13 addresses reimbursement resolution for the Harbor Boulevard parcel. And Crystal is here to answer any questions about that.
All right. Don't see any discussions on my board. Jump on in if you're pushing. All right, Councilman Bagby.
Yeah, I do want to make sure that we add the addendum that Ms. Trammell said or suggested, that we make clear that the Harbor CRA is reimbursing us for that. It can be over, when's the Harbor CRA run out, 28? No, 37.
The Harbor CRA goes to 2043.
43, okay.
So it's 20 years. And Kyle has assured me that he's already drafted up the memorandum of understanding that will be between the Harbor CRA and the City of Destin, and that will be part of the funding package.
Okay, it would be, even though we're the same, minus the mayor, it would be between
Correct.
the CRA board and the city.
Correct.
Correct,
But it'll be between the CRA and the city, but it'll very explicitly state that the Harbor District will be the one paying the debt service on their portion of the debt for this property.
Okay, I'll make the recommended motion then, that we approve. Whoop. Let me get back up to it. Sorry. I move to approve Resolution 23-13.
Second.
All right, any further discussion? Seeing none, calling the vote. Sweet sir. Ayes have it, so moved.
Item C is Resolution 23-15, which is in opposition to speed regulations being placed on our fishing vessels and parallels what the county has already drafted.
Thank you, City Manager. Since I was the sponsor, I've read the resolution. I think it addresses the issues we want. I would perhaps suggest that we put a whereas in there that says, whereas the City of Destin is home to the largest charter fleet in Florida. That might be a nice addendum. But other than that, I think that's what we were looking for. So I will move that we approve the resolution with the addendum.
With
Right.
the addendum, and I'll second that.
All right. Seeing no further. Nation? Whatever the largest we are.
Nation.
Nation. All right, calling the vote. All right, it's unanimous.
Item 4D is an update on the Stallman US Highway 98 intersection. And we have been working with District 3 FDOT representatives. They suggested that we contact one of their divisions about helping us out with a study that that division could perform at that intersection with the data we could use to give to our contractor, who will eventually be providing us with some options for our portion of that intersection. And Mr. Ryan, our engineer, has been working with them and has got that moving forward, and I think we're on a 3-month time frame before we get some data back.
That's correct. When I reached out to them, they originally said that they're currently working on a study of that intersection, and they can get us a report in less than 3 months now. But I talked to them specifically about looking at the phasing and the signal timing of that intersection, and they said they can get us recommendations a lot quicker than 3 months.
Nice, thank you. All right, any further discussion on that?
I'll just add that we tried to concentrate on the things that we can actually do, the signalization. The other thing we talked about is trying to get the pedestrians out of the intersection, either with an overpass, a tunnel, or around through the harbor walk under the bridge if we are successful in acquiring that property. Those pedestrians clog that intersection up pretty significantly. Those are two things probably that are within our scope to help to do and that we could do in the short term. So Ryan's working on that, and Bashful Donovan will get on that task as soon as we tell them we have the money and they can proceed, which hopefully we will do tonight.
Awesome. All right, good point. Councilman Bagby.
Yeah, I'm going to support it, but I see this as part of the next agenda item.
It's
that
just
we're gonna-
informational, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, thank you so much. E.
What agenda item is that part of? Don't we need to add? Don't we need money for this?
No, it just says informational.
Next what?
Next meeting.
Is it the next, is it? No, yeah.
I was hoping to get a recommended motion tonight to
Did you not want funding?
transfer funds to pay for the study.
I think Mr. Destin's going to address that under his section.
Button.
As far as authorizing payment, we were going to address that under your item, weren't we?
Yes, so we need a motion to authorize that?
We can either do it now, or we can do it, he's thinking you're doing it under your name later on in the meeting, but I didn't know that because it
You
wasn't
mean
listed on
at the
here.
back of the thing? I would suggest we go ahead and do it now and be done with it. So I'll make the motion to authorize to go forward. And I think Crystal has an idea on how to juggle the money.
Yeah, so I'm recommending that we use gas tax number 2 funds that are restricted to traffic-related issues that are in our comprehensive plan. We have some that were slated for the Crosstown Connector for construction this year, but construction clearly will not start until next year. So I'm recommending that we use $75,000 of gas tax 2 to accomplish this study, and I'm still working on the rest of the Crosstown Connector funding.
Okay, well, I'll move that we go forward with that. And to the way I perceive Crosstown and this intersection, they're the same animal anyway. So-
I'll second that.
All right, any further discussions? Seeing none, call the vote. All right, ayes have it.
Item 4E is I put together a second draft of the FY 24 to 29 strategic plan, specifically the council objectives after discussion that was held at our last council meeting. And I did my best to incorporate the comments that were made at that meeting, as well as keeping items as best I could within the defined priorities that are listed in your packet. And I just want to remind council that I did this just to help aid in the starting point of this. This is council's document, and any changes that you want to be made to this, whether it's an addition, a deletion, or a modification, is entirely up to you, because this is your document.
All right, Councilman Bagby.
Yeah, so I don't know where this thing is going. I agree with y'all, the staff's or your recommendation that we shouldn't have 7 critical priorities, that we should probably only have 3, because when you have 7 or 10, there's nothing really prioritized there. But I think you have 3 priorities, and I'm just speaking for myself. You have the priority for the waterfront acquisition, okay? And you have the priority for the Crosstown Connector. And the other 5 of those 7 all have to do really with what I believe is going to eventually become our town center just because of a funding issue. The Destin City Center, the underground utilities, which phase 1 is all in the harbor area primarily, the Stallman and US 98 pedestrian and vehicle improvements, the pedestrian access concepts under the Marlar Bridge, and the improved parking and explore options. What we've done, probably unintentionally, is backed ourselves into, most likely, if we truly want a city center, is it being down where our community center is, where our museum is, where our parking spaces, parking lots are, where our cemetery is, close to where our library is, close to where the building that we own next to the community center or whatever. And because there's not money for us to go, and quite honestly, Publix, and I wish Gary were here tonight, but Publix isn't going to give us control of that unless it benefits them. We control a good piece of real estate, or good pieces of real estate, or will once we close on that harbor or the parcel by the bridge. And so really those other 5 things talk about that area right there within what I say is a 3-wood of the Stallman 98 intersection. And because there just won't be any money for us to build something, we can't take on more debt than what we're taking on with the buying of the parcel and the undergrounding of the utilities. There's no more there unless we raise the millage rate or do something like that, which I'm probably not in support of. So I would say you have 3 priorities, but this, again, you're right. Your first statement, this is the council's priorities, and we ought to come to an understanding or an agreement or something on what the top 3 or 4 things are. It shouldn't be 7 or 9 or 10 that we want to, what our vision of the city is. And so I commend you on, you captured, I think, everything that was said last time, but I still think it needs to be refined, and we need to have that discussion on where we're going to put our city center and where we're going to put our resources, because our resources are our people and our money. And we've pretty much said where we're going to put our money through our actions for the last couple of months. So that's probably all I have to say now.
All right, Councilman Guile.
I see the annexations are important, but in my opinion, that's something that I feel should be critical. One of the reasons that I really truly believe that, it doesn't seem like our county commissioners are in line with our vision of Destin. We have a height limit, they don't care. We don't want to see more or hotels or car washes. They own so much of the property here in Destin that they really don't seem to be following the vision that we have for Destin, or that our residents have for Destin. And I don't think they have our residents' desires at heart or in their best interest. I think they're looking at the revenue they can generate from us versus what benefits or improves our lifestyle. So annexation to me is something that if we can't get their cooperation, we just need to try to take as much as we possibly can, annex it into the city in any way we can, so that we can protect the livelihood of our Destin residents. So to me, annexation is something that should be critical, absolutely critical. And I didn't understand how critical when we had our visioning strategic planning session. As time's moved on, I've realized, to me, this is more critical than most. So from my perspective, I think we really need to move annexation up, and in conjunction, work some type of cooperative plan with county commissioners to make sure they can get on the same path as we are with our homes.
Kim, can you speak to that, or as far as what we can do in the interim before we try to annex in? I know that's going to take some time, so is there any way to get some collaboration with the county?
Yeah, we have a JPA right now that could be improved upon in the meantime if you would like. And the community development director is pretty familiar with our JPA. I don't know if he wants to make suggestions to it, but otherwise we could be proceeding towards the annexation. What you all could do is start talking about what your priorities are as far as the properties to be annexed and what the city's policy is as far as collaboration with the county. I don't know if you wanted to add anything about the JPA.
Certainly I can add, last Friday, we met with the county engineer and the public services director for the county, and we were looking at the roadway from Indian Bayou all the way to Kelly Plantation. We gave them all their calculations for, one, the maintenance, and two, to upgrade to city code, and they said they'll get back to us. But what we got as a sense is that they are willing to discuss the potential sharing of cost. It's just a question of what's the proportion at hand. So we thought it was a very good meeting. They need to react to what we give them.
That might have been me. All right, anything else, Councilman? No. All right, Councilman Schmidt.
Sure, thank you. I'd like to move to approve the FY24 council objectives with the following modifications. I'd like to move 1.8 up to critical priorities, so you can still call it 1.8 if you want. And I would like to change 1.9 language to speak more along the lines of Morgan Sports Complex and Threadgill Park Master Plan renovation. And that's my motion right now. We'll have some discussion.
All right, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, Councilman Destin?
Well, if I could just
Yeah,
add,
jump in.
I'm sorry, is that okay?
Yeah, go for it, go for it.
I hear what Mr. Bagby's saying. I also think that if you look at critical, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, and 1.6 are basically done, almost done, full steam ahead. It's happening, so sure, if you want to combine them all, yeah, but those are all ongoing, happening, critical things. I also think we could get rid of critical, important, desirable, and it's just the top 13 priorities of the city council. With those priorities comes the funding. If the funding's there, staff knows that they can do certain things with it, So, I'm not too caught up in the categories, but I agree with Mr. Guile. Annexation is a critical thing for us to make sure the county properties are in line with what the city's vision is. So, those are my recommended changes in the motion.
Awesome. Right. Councilman Destin.
The changes, Kevin, 1.8, my iPad is not working very well. Exactly what are those?
So 1.8 is the annexation of unincorporated enclaves that Mr. Guile was talking about. 1.9 currently says expansion of recreational programming for residents and visitors, and I talked to Lance this morning, and that was the line that he took from some of the discussion that I brought up at the previous meeting, and so I just wanted to make it more clear about the intentions of that item. It's not about programming for residents and visitors. It's about the recreational centers that we have and looking at improving them.
Okay.
The only two I've mentioned.
Yeah, I don't have a real beef with either one of those. Mr. Bagby's analysis of where we are with the Publix property is pretty accurate in my opinion. We don't have the money, and even if we had the money, they have no intention in selling it to us. So, and we are making our big investment over on West Destin. So I don't see that one as one that's, at least in the short term. Of course, if we just, as I said at the earlier meeting before this, if we just do phase 1 on the undergrounding, phase 2 and phase 3, the funding will come online in a number of years and would be available for doing things, hopefully in a timely fashion when we actually are back in a position to do something like that. But right now, that priority is not going anywhere.
All right, anyone else? Jump on in, Bagby.
Yeah, I'm not going to get in the weeds on resources available and stuff, which is part of the reason you separate the thing. But I will just close with my last thing is, if we do one thing, if we have a consensus, you know, 2 is not a consensus, but if we have a consensus that maybe our town center is going to be near the intersection of Stallman and 98, we probably need to spend some money hiring somebody to, just like we did for all those companies to come in from Atlanta and every place and go, here's what it could look like. What could it look like in that area? And we probably need to define that area. Are we going to have tunnels? Are we going to have parking garages? Are we going to have a walkway underneath the bridge? You know, I prefer tunnels, and I have for 15 years. But that may not be what the consensus is. But we, instead of kind of piecemealing this, we need to have a consensus of, okay, we're going to plant our flag here, and what can we make this look like? Because that's going to drive everything else. That's going to drive the connectivity. That's going to drive the pedestrian traffic underneath. That's going to drive, you know, whether we put a marina down at the foot of the Marlar Bridge or whether we do something else. So if we can't envision what we want to do, we're never going to get there. And so I would say in all that, we need to look at funding that priority, because 5 of our 8 or 9 or 13 or whatever all revolve around that town center. So that's just my piece.
That's a topic we need to look at on a fairly soon and see if we can get somebody that can give us some ideas.
From my understanding, and I don't want to speak too soon, but we're going to be seeing something at the end of the month for some of these areas that we're talking about that might answer some of these questions, or what?
Yeah, correct. Yes, we are working on, given that the council has now acted formally on that property, we're working on a couple of options for council to look at, encompassing some of the places that Councilmember Bagley just pointed out, so that you can all see what you could potentially utilize those properties for and how things could look. Yeah. So we're hoping probably the next meeting or the first meeting in September, if all goes well with our planning.
With the RFQ that we did for the bid process for the town center, would we need to rebid that, or can we take the person that we thought was what we had in mind for helping us design? Does the location matter, or can we go off their qualifications?
No, I don't think we need to go back out. Our illustrious city attorney here has been working with the group trying to define the scope and come to a contract arrangement. So we have in place a group that we can work with. It's just a matter of getting a sense of which direction you want to go so we can guide them in their options.
Councilman Bagby?
Yeah. What exactly is it you think you're going to bring back to us at the next meeting or the first meeting in September? I'm not sure what I heard.
Okay. Previously, you had asked us to come up with an RFQ for the garages, and we think we could phase this whole project up if you would take into account the property we just moved on this evening, plus the community center, and those lots that are targeted for parking right now, and kind of envision what that whole place could be. Could be your city center, but we think there's opportunities to reimagine that entire place, potentially repurpose a community center. Those are the options we're going to try and get to you for discussion.
Okay. I would normally think you would have a charrette to do that, but I look forward to seeing what y'all provide.
Yeah, ultimately we need to do that, but we just want to get a sense of whether there's an appetite on the part of the city council to go that direction.
All right, thank you. All right, any further discussion on our priorities? Seeing none, calling the vote. Oh, Teresa, confirm. All right, annexation's critical. How about that? I just have it so moved.
And finally, just a few announcements. The city has completed its community rating system audit for the 2022-2023 period, and our participation in this program and the activities involved provided Destin properties with flood insurance coverage a 20% discount on their premiums per our status as a Class 6 CRS community. Thank you, Michael. And we got the western end of the FDOT median project from Marlar Bridge to Airport Road is experiencing some issues with irrigation, also known as we've got some salt in some of the water that we've been rising up through the well system, so we're trying to fix that. And we will be working on solutions with the FDOT contractors to cure that in the near future. There's 2 grants Jeff's been working on and will be submitted to FDEP in August, totaling approximately $250,000. And Jeff, I don't know if you want to report out any more on that or just leave it there.
Sure, I'll be glad to. We're going to ask for some additional funding for a comprehensive vulnerability assessment. That's going to identify critical assets and the effects of sea level rise and flooding on those areas. And then we're going to ask for money to do an adaptation plan, which will identify mitigation measures to protect those critical assets.
Very good. Thanks, Jeff. We had about 395, we'll call it 400 people attend the big truck event last Friday. We want to thank all the workers and responders who took time out of their day to spend educating the kids about their work and vehicles. And I wanted to thank Mr. Sweetser and Miss Aber, because I saw both of them out there. We were all out there with kids, and they were having a great time, even though I think it was 150 degrees. I'm not sure, but it was very hot. But my crew couldn't believe that I was allowing them to have snow cones at 9 o'clock in the morning. So we had some fun. We got the Public Information Department is working with the county to create 3 PSAs on pedestrian safety for OCHIP and the Health Department. 1 video was shot in Crestview, and 1 will be shot in Fort Walton, and the final 1 will be shot here in Destin. The one here will be focused on roundabout safety. So thank you for that. And we wish all the teachers and young people a good start to their school year, which begins in Destin this Thursday, and ask that everyone out there watching, please slow down. The kids are going to be back on the roads and sidewalks, and please watch out for those guys. And that's all I have, sir.
All right, thank you so much. Public hearing.
This is ordinance number 2310 LC, an ordinance of the City of Destin, Florida, amending Article 7 zoning and regulatory controls of the Land Development Code, changing the list of permitted, conditional, and prohibited uses to include luxury motorhome resorts as a conditional use in the Town Center Mixed Use TCMU zoning district, amending Table 7-2, Table of Allowable Uses, including conditions and criteria for approval, providing for authority, providing for findings of fact, providing for incorporation into the Land Development Code, providing for conflicting provisions, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
All right, thank you so much. Seeing that this is a public hearing at this time, if anyone from the public would wish to comment on this specific topic, this is your time to do so. Seeing none. All right, I'll close the public comments at this time and entertain a motion.
I move to approve ordinance 2310 LC on first reading and advertise the ordinance for second reading on August 21st.
Do I hear a second? Second. With a second, further discussion up first. Councilwoman Aber, or was that just? All right, Councilman Guile.
Thank you. I did get one citizen in Destin that is opposing this, and he wanted his voice heard. I expected to see him here tonight. He did not make it. Him and I had a very in-depth conversation about several things involved with this. For the majority, though, I want to make sure that Nick Knoll knows that I did hear him. We did have the discussion. And there was an instance where he proved me wrong. I was wrong, and I'll admit it, Nick. But ultimately, I think it's in the best interest of Destin to support this moving forward.
All right, thank you. Councilman Bagby?
Yeah, I won't support it. I mean, I understand, probably for the same reasons Nick may have. If you've ever been to Camping on the Gulf and you've watched people trying to pull RVs off of 98 during the summer or even in the fall, or snowbirds, and the way it impacts the traffic, and that is probably one of the worst traffic places we have anyway, right there by Big Kahuna's. I'm surprised we haven't had multiple children killed. And my personal view, vision for Destin does not include, and I know it's going to be screened with the most beautiful landscaping ever, but my vision doesn't include a luxury RV park sitting right on 98. So I'm sure it'll pass, but I think there are people in this town who see those RVs pulling in off of 98 down by Camping on the Gulf, and that's not their vision of Destin either. So they will have one vote tonight.
Councilman Destin.
And I've heard that argument and understand it. I thought I would do a little field research, so I drive by the park that's over on Okaloosa Island, right past the old Ramada. For the last month, I'm usually over there once or twice a day, and I have yet to see an RV pulling into that park. So it may be a problem in the area you're talking about. I think the design of the park itself could lend itself to fixing any problem that might be there, but I sure haven't seen it down at the one on Okaloosa Island. So I understand where they're coming from, but I can't see any evidence of it so far.
Councilman Gao?
And just to add on to what Councilman Destin said, so I did just go down to some local residents adjoining Camp on the Gulf. I did talk to the homeowners down that street. I was actually there for a proposal for my personal business, but while I was on that street, I did ask several of the homeowners, and it seems to be approximately 80% are fine with it because they get to enjoy some of the events that occur at these things, and then you have about 20% that didn't care for it because of the way that they drive, the way that they block some of the roads, some of the noise that comes from that area. But the majority seemed to move in that direction, that they were in favor of having it there, especially for some of the events that happen that they could participate in as a local community as well. And I will say this, I'm not saying that an RV park is my ideal vision of Destin, but I would much rather see an RV park there than something else. So that's why I'm going to support it.
Councilwoman Hebert?
Thank you, Mayor. I will support this. I think that I've talked to a lot of people. They're very much in support of a very high-class RV park in Destin. We have people on the west, we have people on the east end. They're always full. They book a year out, and I feel like it's a very quality type of people, and I'm pretty sure that if someone's going to create this into a nice RV park, they're going to think about how are they going to get them in there so they're not a traffic snarl. And like I said, I've also seen early in the morning and late in the evenings at the RV park on Okaloosa Island, it seems that those people arrive real early in the mornings and then they leave late in the afternoon. So I've never seen them snarled up on 98. So I'll support this. I think it's a great addition to what we have here in Destin.
And while we're on the traffic topic, I just want to bring up as like an idea while this goes through, it seems like that this eventually would trigger us to look at the Mattie Kelly North and South Boulevard and trying to connect that dog leg. I think that would create a nice controlled intersection that I know Big Kahuna's and everyone else would appreciate from the safety aspect of what is a deemed failing highway right there. So nothing to do with this, but I'm just, as we're talking master plans of everything, I really want to see that connection come back in without it really affecting the linear park trail. So that's just my 2 cents getting thrown in there, and let's take a vote. All right, ayes have it, so moved, 6-1.
Mayor, could I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just let you know that, so you have the full breadth of comments. We'll be going to the Town Senate CRA with this proposal for their comments in time for second reading.
All right, thank you. All right, with that, I'll get into our council members. So Councilman Sweetser.
All right. Thank you, everybody that's here. I'm going to start off real quick with the item that I threw on last minute. Sorry about that. The Destin History and Fishing Museum is going to have a 5K. I've provided each of you with a map showing where that is going. It'll be a great event. It'll be the Mullet Run. It took us a little bit of time to get these things together, but I hope everyone is okay with it. Kim does have the details with the insurance, and I did ask Vivian, our amazing new director at the museum, to be here if anybody had any questions.
Was everything else, the normal stuff with Sheriff's Department and all that process gone through?
Yes.
We just don't have it in time to put it on the agenda, so we're doing that.
There was a hiccup with the insurance portion, but we got it through on Friday, and everything else was
Are
was
we
done.
okay with it from the staff and attorney level and all that, I guess?
Okay, great.
Mullet and your mullet wigs, guys. Don't forget that part.
All right, and yeah, so can I get
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to.
I'll second it.
Thank you.
Call on the vote. All right, ayes have it unanimously.
All right. So the second part, the Kelly Street traffic. So it's very clear to me this evening that traffic is a huge issue in Destin. Now, Kelly Street, we've got to find a way to slow it down. Teresa has done a fantastic job down Main Street getting that part slowed. Thank you. We need to do something. If we can't do speed bumps, then let's look at some stop signs. It's a low-density residential neighborhood. Every neighborhood full of children all go down Kelly Street. We've got the elementary school, multiple bus stops, a daycare, and it's nonstop. Not to mention, everyone that lives on the north side of Kelly Street has to go across the street to check their mail. For instance, my 92-year-old grandmother, and it takes 30 minutes some days just to literally walk across the street. I did get an email earlier from Mr. Foldrum. On Kelly Street alone, from August 1st of last year to August 1st of this year, 126 traffic stops. Monitoring school zone, 173. Traffic crashes, 8. That's a lot for that tiny little stretch. And I'd like to get some feedback from everyone else, because I think the only way to do this is if we put in at a minimum 3 stop signs down Kelly Street.
All right, well, the board's lighting up. All right, Councilman Destin.
Yeah, we have a speeding problem. I know most of you noticed the radar screen we had up. While it didn't collect data, it had the blue flashing on it almost all the time. the cars are going through there at a high rate of speed. I think the first step that we can take would be a four-way stop at the intersection of Spring, Lake, and Kelly. And then as we move down, the four-way stop that we put on Cybert was quite effective. It has slowed down the traffic along there. We can have the guys from Public Works look at it. I think there's enough length between that intersection and the one over on Main Street that we won't back up to the point that we'll block any streets. The good thing about that is we don't have the controversy of the speed humps. If our fire department needs to go through it, as long as their lights are going, they don't really have to slow down for that. So it seems to me at least that'd be a step in the right direction to at least start getting it under control. And as we go past the school, past those four-way stops on down Kelly, there may be a place that we can put another one. The stop signs break up the speeders unless they want to run through them, and they're going to get in trouble hopefully over that. I'll discuss that on my section of this council discussion, but I would make a motion to direct Public Works to give us a quick preliminary analysis of putting the four-way stop at the intersection of Spring and Kelly to start out.
All right, so I got a motion on the table. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Just, I'm sorry, Councilor Destin, Spring Lake or Spring?
Yeah, Spring Lake.
Spring Lake, okay.
Before we move on that motion, if I could add to it, the further down past the school, that corner, we all know it, multiple crashes.
Michael's house?
Multiple speeds. The houses have been literally driven through. I spoke with Burgess. We discussed it would almost be a five-way stop right there or a roundabout, but that's going to have to be down the road. I think for now, to break that length is if we put another one at the end of Fleshman.
If you'd like to make that part of the motion to direct them to come back with an analysis of that for us?
Yes.
Then I would be happy to do that.
I would like to add Fleshman having a stop sign to this motion.
All right.
Second.
And then we're going to go back to the discussion. Any discussion on those stop signs for the motion before we go back to the pool? Okay, go ahead.
Before we go down that road, Mr. Bagby brought up this earlier about Mr. Otto's talking about Indian Trail. That night, we made a motion that night to have Public Works not just look at that. I'm pretty sure we asked Public Works to look at almost the entire city about these particular areas. So I'm completely in favor of this, but I also don't want to lose sight of, and maybe that night we did maybe lose sight of that particular motion, but Public Works is supposed to be looking at Indian Trail, Kelly, and those major streets in Destin. So I know highways. But I guess on top of your motion tonight, maybe we can, Michael, go back to reference that meeting to make sure that we're studying those things that we talked about.
I got the impression they were going to bring it back to us maybe at the next meeting after the discussion.
It sounded like it hasn't happened yet at Public Works and Public Safety.
Right, they're going
That's
to,
how
I think Mr. Burgess said there was a meeting scheduled here shortly.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
I guess I just want to reiterate that it wasn't specifically Indian Trail or something. There was more to it. So Kelly, 100%, and Indian Trail, Mr. Otto's intersection. I'm near there, but I didn't put it out there. He brought it up. But anyways, there's more to it than just that. But I do agree with what you're doing tonight.
All right.
So are we moving this for more discussion, or are we going to go ahead and make the motion to have those put in now?
We got a
Correct.
motion and a second. We're out to vote on that.
Okay.
For the two stop signs on Kelly.
No, the motion is to take it to Public Works. To be clear, right, Mr. Dustin?
To check out and make sure.
Button.
Just want to make sure Mr. Sweetser
We
understands.
want them to bring a plan back to us.
Okay.
Unless there's some kind of problem that they can foresee.
Okay.
Foresee.
Okay.
All right, calling them. Oh, okay, you still want to go? Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I did, and I'll support this motion. I wouldn't support what I think you were asking, because there are a lot of people that would be affected by 3 4-way stops or 2 4-way stops or 1 4-way stop that weren't noticed that, oh, by the way, we're going to, and most of the complaints that I've heard about the speed tables that we did put in was, how the heck did they get speed tables on Main Street? And I've been trying to get them on Indian Trail, or I've been trying to get them on Holiday Isle, and I'm like, well, it just kind of happened that way. Put your name on a ballot or something. I don't know. But what we have to do is make sure we have some transparency up here. I don't say it's a bad idea. It doesn't really, I used to live off of Ridgewood Circle, and there needs to be a stop sign there from 15 years ago when I lived there, but we need to make sure the public is noticed. So there'll be people that will be here, hopefully, next time, who will be strongly in favor of 3 4-way stops or 2 4-way stops. And there'll be people that are against it, because on Kelly, my observation, unlike Holiday Isle, most of those speeders are us.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, they live here. The same thing with Indian Trail. It's us. So I just want to make sure us is noticed and has the opportunity to come say, heck no, you can't put 3 4. You realize how long it'll take me to get my kids to school if you put 3 4-way stops on Kelly Street, or whatever they're going to say, But that's why I like your motion. Bring it back next, put it on the agenda, publish the agenda. Everybody in this town can come speak about those 4-way stops if they so desire.
My last thoughts on this are, now that we have a renewal and replacement program in place for all our roads, Louis, what policy dictates what our roads look like and the design of our roads as we renew and replace, or potentially reimagine not a speed straightway?
You're talking about redesigning the width and the lanes and all that stuff?
And it's not going to happen over time. Well, it would happen over time. But yeah, where are those boundary markers of what creates the lanes? Because, a lot of our roads in Destin have highway widths. And we're just encouraging, through sheer compassion of over-engineering for when something bad does happen, that we are now allowing this idea of speeding because it's comfortable to go 45 on Kelly. So the long play, well, I think the stop signs are the cheap short play, and it might be a good start. I think the true answer is redesigning the road so it does feel kind of more like in front of Home Depot on Commons, where you can't really go too fast before you start feeling G-force and you get out of control.
I'll defer to my learned friend here, the engineer. However, basically there are street classifications that dictate what type of design elements associated with it. Do you want to take that from here?
Well, and as part of the new mobility plan, it's going to have cross-sections cut of what's going to be used around town. So the mobility plan is going to address some of that.
So would the land development code have the width requirements based on the title of the road?
Yeah, and it's going to be part of the rewrite. So
Okay,
you guys
so-
will have a chance to see that and comment on the road, LDC rewrite.
And that's like chapter 8 or something in the LDC? Yeah, I got my LDC down. I'm ready for you guys. I've been ready since I was a council member for this LDC.
Good job.
All right, I'm calling the vote unless anyone else has anything else to say. All right. All right, ayes have it. Public safety has got a lot to do. All right, Councilman Guile.
Thank you very much. I have a few things I want to talk about, but I guess we can talk about the harbor dredging first. I'm sorry. Well, I'll explain one. I didn't get one on there earlier because this weekend, every weekend, I spend time at either the harbor trying to help code compliance find violators because they're understaffed. And this weekend, I spent time at Joe's Bayou trying to help regulate some things because they don't have the personnel, and cities the city residents are crying about it or have issues with it, so I'm trying to support the best I can. The way I look at it, I don't have the skill set that Councilman Schmidt or Councilman Bagby have with their vast knowledge of the finances and investments. I don't have the liberty of being on every single vote on every single council since day one, like Councilman Destin. So I'm going to go out there and do the grunt work as much as I can and help from that facet. So that's why I didn't have time to get some of these on the agenda, because they happened over this weekend. All right. So the harbor dredging, I think, Ryan, do you have an update on that harbor dredging for us?
Yes, I've been in contact with the Army Corps of Engineers, and we do have a dredging maintenance permit that is good until 2030. So I reached out to figure out next steps. We would need to get a survey of the channel to figure out where the condition is at and see how much would need to be dredged. So I would need about $15,000 to be freed up somehow to pay for a survey if we want to move forward with the next steps of that channel.
Okay, and if it's okay, I'd like to make a motion. I do know, I went through, and I actually thought that's where we were going to grab the $75,000 from, to be honest with you, but we had $100,000 designated towards a signage project, a wayfinding that kind of fell through. Yeah, so we have $100,000 available there.
I think that wayfinding.
You took 70?
I believe that wayfinding money is CRA money. I think it's town center CRA
Town center,
money.
yeah,
To be
it's town center
specific,
CRA.
and that would not be an eligible use.
Okay, that wouldn't be eligible use. All right. Well, I would like to make a motion.
There is the council contingency fund that Mr.
Council
Bagby
contingency-
loves.
I'd like to utilize that for this survey, if that's possible. If you
I'll
There's
see what the-
50,000 in there, right?
There
We
was,
replenished it?
but we spent some of that on wrappings for some utility things. Anyway, I need to double check the balance on that.
But I thought we renourished the council contingency.
We renourished it, and then we spent some more.
We're really good at that. All right, so contingent on there being money?
Can we make a motion that we try to find the 15,000 somewhere? Can we direct staff to try to find that 15 grand somewhere?
We can do that.
I'll second that.
All right.
And also, just for the
That's what
record,
just
to the city engineer, just for the record, is that 15,000 going to cover the survey and the dredge, or just the survey?
Just the survey.
Just wanted to make that clear for the record. Also, I think it should be bid out, not just get one quote.
Right.
Also, at this late stage in the fiscal year, I think it would make more sense for us to adopt $15,000 survey budget in the budget that we're about to adopt that goes into effect October 1st. So I don't know if he can arrange for a bathymetric, this particular type of survey, that quickly and get it approved at council before the end of September.
All right, Councilor Schmidt?
I have some questions, sir, and some maybe comments. Does this come in regards to the captain of the Buccaneer that was here that one night when you first brought this up? Or is this something else? Because
No, it was initiated by the captain of the Buccaneer, absolutely, because of the issues that they're having being able to function with their business. But that channel has gotten very shallow.
Right.
So a lot of the larger boats are having difficulty getting back into the harbor
So,
maneuver.
I'm sure that is the case. I think I've heard Captain Green talk about that and others, but we're talking about that other study that we're going to be possibly doing as well. Is that not going to be something along the same lines that they'd be able to do a survey during that study whenever we look at the channel, the 172 or whatever it's called? Could that?
Hey, Ryan, will the 107 include the same parameters
I'm just
for
trying
the
to
study
ask so I can understand.
that's required for this dredging operation?
Well, it will be covered, but it's just way down the road. Just depends on how quickly you want it done.
Is this something that we should try to do a survey? I mean, can I ask Captain Green here for
It's a
feedback
CRA.
on this, or?
Yeah, with him being a CRA board member.
I'm not a captain of a boat, but I haven't heard much feedback from anybody.
So, first off, the 107 study isn't even been approved yet, and we're
Or
based at
budgeted.
18 to 24 months for that. This is a small area of the channel, but it's a very utilized area, especially with the docks that are being, the new marina private marina that's being built. It is a small area, but it is very crucial, and right now we have a lot of water in there. Whenever we start getting the cold fronts coming through, there's going to be less water in the harbor. Through the spring, through the fall, winter, and spring, there's less water in the harbor. And right now I back out into this part of this channel, and I draw 3 foot less than the Buccaneer does, and I kick up sand when I spin to go out of the channel. So I think it's worth it, because you're not doing the whole channel. You're doing a small section, and there's 2 shoals that feed this into. So I think it's worth it, and definitely worth the time and effort.
All right, thank you. Councilwoman Aber.
Well, just to add on to that, Captain, I know you've already headed back down to sit down, but the Buccaneer at this point can't even go down into the harbor. He literally has to pivot from his spot, because I paid to take my grandkids out this weekend on the Buccaneer, and he literally pivots out because it's so shallow there and turns all the way around right in the middle of the harbor and then heads out. He can't even take him into the harbor. He has to go out. And then as he comes in, he parks. He doesn't even, because it's so shallow. So,
And he goes down into the harbor, but it depends on the tide,
Right.
whether it's high tide or not. And
9 out of 10 times, he said he's pivoting right there and going out.
And I'd like to remind you, we have more and more big boats, tool boats
Exactly.
and fishing boats in the harbor. And
Yes.
if we're outside of the navigable channel and something was to happen, of a collision, a running, a grounding, then we're considered negligent if we're outside of that parameter, by the Coast Guard standard. We'd have to prove why we veered from the navigable channel. So it's very important. It's supposed to be at 10 to 12 foot. And right now it's 6.5 at low tide and probably 7.5 to 8 at high tide. So it's not just about the Buccaneer, but he is the one that is the deepest draft and affected by it. But there's a lot of us that are affected by it. And whenever we start, that weather changes, we will be even more affected by it. So.
Well, my other question is, why do we have to do a survey when we know right where the worst, what needs to be dug out?
I think that has to do with the Corps' permit. It's a permit requirement.
It's like
because
that's part A, you just have to do that to prove that you got to get rid
the
of that.
survey is going to tell you how much material to remove, and then you go out to bid for a dredge and
Great.
all that stuff. So
That's clarity. Thank you, I appreciate
I
that.
know it's a level of bureaucracy, but it would be very beneficial, not just to the fleet, but there's a lot of private boats in Destin, 60, 70-foot Vikings that dock down the way, and they draw 6, 7 foot too. So, thank you.
Thank you, that's my question.
Yeah, I don't want to do that, Crystal. I appreciate you thinking ahead, because I don't want to lose 2 months.
Right.
Because October the 1st, then we just basically kick 60 days before we can actually go out and engage this survey company. So
Right.
I will make a motion to use it out of council contingency. And if there's not enough, that is within the spending authority of the city manager, and I will let him figure it out. But I want to move on getting the survey now.
I'll second that.
So I just want to say about process, we might have to do an RFP. We're going to reach out to the continuing services contractors that we have, that have surveying experience, but we don't know yet if they have the skills required to do this particular type of survey. So it might go longer. So I will note that you're okay. And by the way, I did check. We have $24,000 remaining in the council contingency. So we'll use that if we are able to do this with one of our existing continuing services contractors. If not, I'm also going to budget so that we have some money for the survey available in case we don't get them on board until October.
Well, what you need to do is budget for the dredging. We've got the money for the survey. you need to budget in the 24 budget for the dredging, because that's not going to be $15,000. Even if we just go 4 or 5 feet down, that's going to be probably $100,000.
At minimum, it'll be 100.
So I would tell you to when Ryan goes out to get a survey number, that he also simultaneously ask about how much to dredge.
Councilman Destin?
Thanks, and you guys will have to excuse me, these hearing aids don't work so late when it gets past 8 o'clock. But, net environmental positive benefit funds, we charge those on all marine construction, correct?
That's correct, and I was considering using those funds, but it specifically says it's for water quality, so I just want to, we're walking a fine line there.
Okay,
I was going to check with our legal counsel to see if that would be an allowable use.
We have made that exact argument to use them in the past because a deeper channel facilitates flow from our pumping mechanism. I think that's a very valid point we can make, and so I would look very closely at the use of those numbers. Do we have any idea? I know you can't tell off the top
actually, we do have $110,000 in our NPEB bank account today. Yes,
that's moving in the direction we need to go. So I would look at that very closely, and we're the ones that get to determine whether it's a net environmental benefit unless someone can come show that we're not. So there we go.
And then my last question is, automatically the sand that we're going to dredge, we could use that to refurbish Noriega, which is starting to erode, correct? So we keep that sand wherever we get it out, right, Lisa? We could make sure we got some more up on Noriega where it's kind of coming down, right?
Yeah, the only other point I will make is the city of Mexico Beach bought their own dredge, and I see advertisements for dredging equipment in the Boats and Harbors magazine all the time. So we need to solicit someone to do it, and then we need to look and see if it would be cheaper to do it ourselves. Although when we're done, I suppose there are always dredging projects. Those dredges tend to, if you don't use them, stop working. But it is a thought. We can put Ryan on that dredge. I'm sure he can figure that out.
Okay, does everyone understand the motion? Yes. All right, calling the vote. Ayes have it, so moved. All right, Councilman Destin.
No, I'm not done. I have a couple things to add.
I thought you saved our last one for the one you wrote down.
No, that was the first. So I did spend the weekend over at Joe's Bayou when that storm came in, that little, whatever it was, that gusting. I did see a lot of illegal activity out there happening at Joe's Bayou. And I did work with Wayne, which is very proficient, but a little bit older, and another volunteer, or another gentleman out there that was on light duty. I saw them get threatened. I saw people disregard everything that they were saying. I personally almost got into a fight with an individual out there because of the way he was treating those people. So I do want to work with or direct city staff to come back with some type of resolution that either offers cameras, backup with Sheriff's Department. I asked them why they didn't call the code enforcement or the Sheriff's Department when they have those issues. They gave the code enforcement, they called them right in front of me. It went to a voicemail. I didn't know at that time that voicemail gets dispatched to every code enforcement that's on duty at that time. So I actually, and I apologize, Troy, but I gave them your cell. I asked them to contact you and come up with a better plan so that they feel like they're being supported. And I expressed to them very, very thoroughly. I don't want them to be I don't want them to have to come to a job where they feel threatened or where they don't feel safe. So I would really like to direct city staff in a method or a plan to help these gentlemen out there, to help them do their jobs effectively, help them regulate what's going on in a safe manner where they don't feel threatened, and that we have one way or some opportunities of repercussions to the individuals that are acting this way. And part of that might be towing, part of that might be banning them from utilizing that park for future reference or for future use for certain periods of time. But I do want to direct C-staff in helping me find a resolution to help support these gentlemen.
All right, is that a motion?
No, it's not a motion, it's just a.
Okay.
Yep, thank you. And we do currently have some security measures already in place. I probably won't discuss them on the dais here. And we have plans to add some additional security in the very near future that utilizes some AI technology that will help us a great deal in what you're talking about. As far as the gentlemen go that are the park attendants out there, we'll work with them too to reinforce what you said and make sure they understand that they are not required to put up with threats and things like that, and how they can respond to that.
Okay, can we get some type of time schedule? If it's not maybe the first meeting in September, with at least a plan on how we're going to support them, or with how many cameras, or what the city plan is to help keep these gentlemen safe when they're doing work for us.
We can work through that.
Wonderful. And then the last thing I wanted to address was some gentlemen.
I got Matthew Sweetser wanted to.
I apologize.
All right, so I just moved off of First Street. I've lived there and I grew up on Second. It's constant issues over there. I can't tell you how many times I had to jump up and leave my house and run or drive to the parking lots with issues going on. Poor Lisa, I see her while I was outside working in my yard 24/7, coming up and down, having to be at Joe's Bayou. And I don't know if Teresa remembers or not, but I had brought this up a few years ago on Parks and Recreation. Why can't we find some type of park ranger system to have some type of authority at our parks, especially at the boat launch? Because they come in off Crab Island and they got a snootful and they're cocky and they're going to keep going. And they're just sitting there without any help. So, what is the hold off on a park ranger?
No hold up right now. I mean, currently we have one park ranger budgeted in the city, but just so you understand that what the park ranger can do is that they basically have some of the authority that a code officer has, not all, but some. They go through the parking training and they go through some of the other enforcement training, but not all. But right now we have one of those in the Parks and Rec department.
Okay. I think that kind of needs to go along with the harbor person in code enforcement. We need someone over there for Matty Kelly, Joe's Bayou, someone for the harbor, just to the bad spots to get them covered.
And I don't disagree at all, and we're moving forward with Troy's recommendation for next fiscal year, getting some additional staff on board. So as far as in the next fiscal year, if this budget gets approved, we will have some staff to assign more specifically to places like that, especially during peak season times. And so I would just ask that you support Troy's request for fiscal year 24.
Okay. I think that was all I had to add. I just wanted to make sure that, this has been brought up before. I definitely support.
All right, jump on in.
Who's bringing?
Councilman Bagby?
Yeah. So is it particular time, i.e. later in the afternoon, 3 to 5, 4 to 6, 2 to 6, or, when they're coming in off of Crab Island? Because I will tell you, we had 2 videos this past weekend of the fights out at Crab Island, which is at least the two different ones that I saw. There's probably a lot more out there. But is it a specific time? Because to say we need this resource, but if it's a 4-hour block, there are deputies. I don't know what y'all charge per hour. I don't know what Walton County charges, but you can get off-duty deputies, which would probably be a lot better resource, more powerful than a park ranger and a code enforcement person to sit there for that 4-hour period for $100, $150, whatever Okaloosa County Sheriff's charge. And that would probably solve 90% of your problem when they put the bracelets on a couple of those guys and just haul them off. So I'm just asking.
Yeah, no,
I want
agree.
us to solve the problem. I hear both of you, but can we more clearly define the problem? Because we don't need a full-time park ranger addition to solve and I know it's in the summer. Yeah.
It's typically a big holiday weekend. Outside of that, it's locals that live here. It's teenagers that are doing 360s in the gravel parking lots, blowing rocks in people's windows. There really is no different time, a set time that it's going on. Late at night, all types of things are going on out there at Matty Kelly Boardwalk.
Lisa, do we have numbers of like trends of when it's the most busiest, even outside of the peak holidays? Do we know our numbers, our daily numbers?
Yes.
Okay.
So, of course, early in the morning, my staff's there 6:30 in the morning. By 8:30, 9 o'clock on a busy weekend, it's pretty busy, and everyone's okay. It's mainly in the afternoon when they start coming in, and it's definitely when that rainstorm comes in and they're all trying to get where they need to be. So it's all over the place in the evening on a 4th of July, definitely. Now, I will say, we are trying to protect our staff. Our staff does know they only take so much, and when somebody gets a little too angry with me or them, my heroes come. And, we just call the sheriff because we're not going to deal with that. So we do that, and we do have cameras. And we also trespass people that don't know how to behave at the ramp. So that's what we do as Parks and Rec.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, and I understand you guys are doing everything you can. And I did talk with Lance in private about several options, one being potential posse, one being sheriff, since they can be on hire. We've had those discussions as well. But I wanted them to come back with a plan that they thought was absolutely feasible instead of me just throwing out options. And yeah, I will agree there was more in the afternoon, but in the morning, they did deal with people that refused to pay to utilize the park, and they just flipped them off, parked their truck, got in their boat, and left. So, yeah, and I said, why aren't we towing them? And they said they don't have that authority. So that's why I'm asking staff to come back with a plan versus us up here trying to debate back and forth what the highest potential is. But if we could move that direction, I'd greatly appreciate it. And the final thing I wanted to talk about today, if it's okay.
Oh, we got Troy wants to weigh in.
Oh, somebody else up? I apologize. Kevin Schmidt.
I just wanted to throw something out there as we're talking some of the things that were said. Obviously, if there was a specific hot time, and we could be there, we would. And Councilman Bagman mentioned, hiring the sheriff's department. Obviously, we're going to advocate for the code department. So if there was a hot time between 1 and 4, we would absolutely be there. But if that wasn't, during the non-hot times, then we would have them tasked with doing other vital code stuff, that is, needed around the city. So I don't want to get that lost in the shuffle there. Is like, hey, if we weren't addressing that, we would absolutely be addressing something else. So, okay.
All right, Kevin?
I was just going to support Mr. Gao, and I think what you're saying is, I think you're making it clear that we want a plan specifically from leadership and staff, because I think on Troy's first night, he spoke up about cameras, and I'm sure that's part of the plan for soon. I think John Stevens and Mike Abity have probably set on 3 separate subcommittees to talk about that Joe's Bayou task force with probably 3 separate code enforcement directors. So we've talked about those ideas that Mr. Bagby's saying we need to be more clear. So I agree with you, Mr. Gile, and thank you for making it very clear of we need a plan of action very, very soon. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. I'm almost waiting for the shoe to drop, like that was a punchline for...
Okay. All right, so yeah, let's go. So we have a motion?
But there's no motion. It was
okay,
just...
you guys... All right.
All right. The final thing I wanted to talk about was we had some residents discussing the police department. This isn't the first time we've heard about this. I did meet with Crystal just to get a rough idea of what it would take financially to manage a police department. We would almost have to double our city taxes to get to that point. And in order to do that, we would have to get the majority of the public to agree to that. So it's not that we haven't taken this seriously. It's not that we are not looking into it. We were looking in, I believe Crystal looked into all the training, the funding for all the training. It was a very in-depth study she did. For all the training, they get special retirement, they get special leave. There were several things that she took into account for a city this size and what we would need. And in order to do it, I think we came up with, initially we would need $750,000 up front, and then it would double our ad valorem, if I wasn't mistaken. Is that correct, Crystal? So at that point, it would be almost double. I think it was 90% of the ad valorem increase when we looked at it. So, yeah, what we'd have to do is change the charter, and we'd have to find enough citizens that would be willing to take on that increased tax rate. So I don't want you to think you're not being heard, because we are looking into it very thoroughly.
Comments at the end.
Yeah, comments are at the end, sir.
You get another bite at the end of the meeting.
Yeah, I apologize, but, okay. Thank you all very much for your time.
All right, Councilwoman Aber?
Just to add on to what Tori's saying, years ago, we talked about why we don't have a police force. We don't have but about 12,000 taxpaying residents. If we had Mattie Kelly and Regatta Bay, all of those residents, if we could get them to annex in and pay city taxes, we'd have a police force. But we just don't have the tax-paying residents of Destin that it takes to have that, so.
All right, Councilwoman Bagby, throw us with some.
Yeah,
some facts.
I don't want to pour water on y'all's numbers, but when we actually did a study of the police department, the initial cost, I believe, was $2.4 million, and that was in 2010 or 11. That was just to buy the radios, buy the cars, buy the uniforms, do the training, buy, all the repeater antennas. So I would imagine that's probably doubled to about $5 million just to stand them up. That's not paying them. That's not paying their retirement or anything. And that's why we don't have a police force. The cost of doing that was cost prohibitive with a 2 mil cap. Because we had some very passionate people 12 years ago or however long. I think Sandy may have been on when we did the study. And we all thought that was the great idea, and Sam Severs was the mayor, and she was a very big proponent of it. And then we actually started counting everything, bullets and training and qualifying and all that, and that stuff adds up really, really quick. So it has nothing to do with the residents. We could have everything south of the bay, and we would still have to double our taxes to have a police force, because that would probably be about $5 million a year, not counting the initial cost to stand them up.
All right, Councilman Gal, you good?
Yeah, and I apologize. That 750, that was just a rough, when we were just trying to think of things right off the top, sitting in a room. It wasn't a full workshop or study. I apologize.
Councilman Destin.
Thank you, Mayor. To address the complaints that we got tonight about the traffic, especially on Holiday Isle, in a little more realistic fashion, we're about to go into the budget cycle. We can hire deputies through the Sheriff's Department whose primary, if we ask, and we put it in the contract, primary duty would be traffic enforcement. We did that the first year we ever hired a deputy. That deputy earned enough money to darn near pay his salary. But I'm going to tell you, he was giving tickets mostly to local residents, my mother being one of his first victims. And I thought that was really quite funny myself, but we can, if we want to spend the money, the deputies are costing us, what, 100,000 or so now, somewhere in that neighborhood, we can put into the budget and hire some who will do primarily traffic enforcement. If the Sheriff's Department needs them, they'll go do something else, but that'll be their primary function, and they'll write an awful lot of tickets, and they will pay for a good portion of their own salaries in that manner. So that is an alternative that we should and could look at as we get on into the budget, because even two of them we'll write an awful lot of tickets.
Did we do away with it?
We did because we got so many complaints from the people that lived here. The sheriff decided he didn't want to be the person that all of these residents who were voters were mad at, and we decided we didn't want to be the target of that ire, and eventually we just phased that on out. But I'm not sure, as we stand here today and see the problems we have with speeding and other traffic, that was the wise thing to do, and we can reconsider that decision anytime we want to.
All right, fair enough.
And other than that, I'm going to let the council go on because we're almost 8:30.
Yeah, I don't want you to lose your over-under. And I will give you another idea to the Holiday Isle Improvement Association folks. Every homeowners association down on 30A hires sheriff's deputies. Heck, some of the private condos. So if you want more enforcement, Holiday Isle Improvement Association also has money, and they have a solution that they could hire a sheriff's deputy, for 4 hours or whatever their minimum is, to sit right there and do nothing but enforce that intersection. But to Mr. Destin's point, because I think I was here when we got rid of the thing, most of the people you're going to catch, particularly now that the summer's over, are going to be locals. And then they'll start complaining. They'll complain to us, and they'll complain to the sheriff, and the sheriff will go, that's 200 votes or something that he doesn't want to lose in the next election. And I would just ask, I assume, because I know the task force was out, to Mike's point, but were y'all involved, or were y'all able to break up those, I just saw the videos of the fights out at Crab Island, and I mean, it was like people just swinging left and right. Were y'all out there?
Yes, sir, we were out there. We had additional staff out, as well as we worked with the FWC and with the Coast Guard. We had about 26 law enforcement officers out on Crab Island that day between the three entities. The task force that they were referring to, Station Destin is primary a search and rescue station. They've got a limited number of hours that they can have their vessels on the water. And so when they they ended up sending 11 Coast Guard members over from Station Mobile to work on the situation, but they didn't have a boat because of the search and rescue role over here. So where our role in that was is we put the Coast Guard members on the vessels with us and helped them to enforce the livery stuff. They helped us to enforce the fights and BUIs and other things that we deal with out there.
All right, Councilwoman.
I just want to comment on how awesome the Big Truck Day was on Friday morning. Lisa, you and your crew did a phenomenal job. There was so much ice cream and snowballs, and I was so excited how the kids were kept cool with all the cold stuff you provided. So kudos, great event, lots of great brand new garbage trucks, brand new, cherry picker trucks. It was quite impressive. So I just want to commend you and your staff for an awesome event, and keep it up. Thank you very much.
All right.
I do want to run off Teresa's sentiments on that one. I took my nephew to the Big Truck Day. It was hot, but we stayed because it was fun. Thank you. Y'all really did a fantastic job.
All right, Councilman Schmidt.
Thank you. A few things. First, beach flag safety. I had some preliminary conversations with Mr. Joe D'Agostino. It's a tough one to say. And I would like to see if I could make a motion to have support from council to be kind of a legislative sponsor to continue conversations with Joe and the county in regards to beach safety flags in the city of Destin in collaboration with the county, and continue those conversations.
I'll second that motion.
Okay.
There you go. We'll make that motion. Thank you. Legislative sponsor. I'll make that motion to make you the legislative sponsor.
Calling the vote.
All right.
All right.
All right. Ms. Zunguzzi, I believe, was that who that was? Okay. She asked for some support on Okaloosa Women's program, coalition.
And you can give her my cell number, okay, Lewis?
Are we able to do things like putting some of the placards up in the library, the public restrooms on the harbor, and things like that? Is that something that we can do, Lance?
Yeah, just Director Lance?
We have areas where I think we can legitimately post them for the public, like at the community center, at the library. Maybe
Are we
at
okay with
Morgan's.
that? I mean, I kind of felt bad that the city, I mean, I don't know what, she mentioned that we're not supporting it, but if we need to support it, I'd love to support it, so.
I think it was a lack of knowledge, honestly.
Right.
Because I
If we
try
can
and
at
be
least do
involved in
this
all
for
of
now,
that.
I'd like to do that, and then if there's more that we can do as a city or council, please pass the word. Well, thank you.
I love women, so I'd be more than happy to support any way I possibly can.
Okay. The last time we heard about the Holiday Isle issue, Captain Fulgham, is it Captain? I apologize. Captain? Okay, sorry. I always mess up the ranks, so I don't want to be disrespectful. We did ask that night about, hey, can we send out some people to Holiday Isle? Was that kind of followed through on it, at least in the short term?
Yeah, I haven't pulled the statistics since we sent them out there, but
Okay.
we have beefed up patrols down there.
Okay.
Specifically looking for that,
Sure.
for that stop sign. Deputy Benninger has been down there numerous times himself, watching the stop sign and,
Okay.
and working that area.
And then I don't think these gentlemen have said anything about the city of Destin needs to have a police force. I haven't heard that from them. Maybe that's what they were getting at, but we haven't approved the contract with the sheriff's office yet, right? That's in the budget process.
That's correct. We have not.
Have we lately done any type of comparison with the other municipalities in regards to our size, our seasonable size? Have we done anything studying like that in the recent years to, they had some amazing statistics that I'm assuming are accurate. Maybe they know, maybe you know, about Fort Walton, Mary Esther, Niceville, and that's alarming if that's actually true. So do we have anything on hand like that?
Not exactly like that. I know we work with the sheriff's office every year to try to determine what the proper workload
I can
is.
tell you this, the national average of the size of a law enforcement agency per 1,000 citizens is 2.4 employees with the law enforcement agency per 1,000 residents. So you look at the city of Destin, roughly 14,000. So that would be a department size for y'all of 33.6 people.
Right, so you just said we need 33 and we have 5?
Currently, y'all have 21.
21.
A 21-member department that y'all pay for. What y'all get that y'all aren't paying for, that the other cities are in that, is a supervisory staff. So you've got 11 supervisors that supervise the deputies, the 21 deputies that are assigned to Destin, that y'all don't have to pay for. So that takes it up to, what, 32?
But we actively have 21 that we pay for.
You actively have 21 that you pay for. There's 11 supervisors that you
Right.
don't pay for. Then what you don't pay for is the administrative staff that these other cities are paying for that figure into that number. All the records clerks. Then you also don't pay for the booking staff that these other cities pay for. That's included in that 2.4.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. But the 21 that we pay
21
for
is what you pay for.
are the 21 that we get to see results from.
Yes.
Right? I mean, to
Yeah,
be
the-
honest,
you
the
don't-
public sees the 21.
Yeah, you're not
They don't see
seeing,
the booking clerk and all that.
Correct,
So-
and they're also not seeing, the city of Niceville citizens aren't seeing their record staff processing stuff either.
So I'd like to, I don't know if we need to make a motion, but I'm kind of interested to see some comparisons with our, before we approve upcoming budget and contracts, how the sheriff's office compares to these other municipalities, maybe in tourist destinations. I don't know if anybody else is interested in seeing that. Because Council Fulgham just said we're understaffed by 12 people. Right? No, he said
No,
the
that's
national average
not
is,
what I
he said
said.
the national average is 33 and we have 21.
That's not what I said. I said that y'all are paying for 21. You have
Well,
got,
that's-
got an additional staff. You have got.
Right. But
you've
by
got additional-
contract, we have 21.
Yes, by
So-
contract, you've got 21.
When we say we need something, if your answer is going to be, well, sorry, you only have these that
No.
you pay for. I'm not saying that's what you're going to tell us, but contractually,
No,
we
that's
have
not,
21.
that's not how it works. So you've got 2 K-9 officers assigned out here that because they roam the entire district, y'all don't have to pay for them. Okay, you've got, like I said earlier, you've got 11 supervisors out here, myself included, that because they roam, because their responsibility is the entire district,
Right.
y'all aren't having to pay for them. So y'all are not understaffed.
I hear
by
what you're saying.
any sense of the word.
I guess I'm just taking it, maybe it's just me. You're saying we're not understaffed because we have a lot of free benefits that we get
Correct.
due to everything going on around us.
Correct.
And that's a great benefit to have. I'm not disagreeing with you. But we're paying for 21 people. And it sounds like we still sometimes have complaints about traffic and stuff that we need more.
I
Mr.
think it's
Destin was saying it too, you know.
I think it's back in 2011 when Mr. Bagby brought
Took it.
this up. I said the same thing to him outside because I wasn't a captain at that time. I said the same thing to him outside the council meeting that I'll tell y'all here now. I encourage you, please go out and look. By all means, do your comparisons, see how much it's going to cost to set up an agency, and if y'all can get a better
Right.
price, a better
Right.
something,
No,
you know.
I'll
by
interject
all
again.
means.
That's not my point here. My point is, I do think we need to have some more. So I'm just trying to make sure that we are, you say we have the free ones. I get that, but I want to support getting enough people to have a physical,
Certainly.
visual presence.
Right.
Anytime and every time that we need. And if the political side of things is because we're writing too many tickets, then we can deal with that as some of the council members that sit up here. But I think most citizens would prefer to see more tickets being
And,
written.
and absolutely, if y'all want to, if y'all want to explore the contract about getting more people, the only thing that I will say right now is the sheriff's office is no different than every other police department, law enforcement agency in the area. By the end of this month, we will be 22 people down on the road.
Right.
And, having the slots and being able to fill them are two totally different things. But
I appreciate it.
yeah, absolutely. We'll entertain, negotiations
Sure.
on more people all day long.
Thank you. Mr. Otto brought up at the last meeting Clement Taylor Park, and that week there was a meeting, and I apologize I didn't get with him, but there was actually a meeting that took place, Mr. Otto, and I was going to see if staff could also let us know what the Clement Taylor Park status is after the last couple of 2 or 3 weeks since that meeting.
Yeah, we've been working with Scott Jenkins to get the documentation we need and our legal counsel. And I think just like 5:30, 6 o'clock tonight, we pretty much have everything. So within the next day or two, I'm going to organize that information and get it over to the county.
Can you tell me what that means, though, in layman's terms?
Well, once we get that information to the county, it'd be their responsibility then to upload that information to Treasury in the portal and to get the application completely submitted.
Their chances are pretty well to have it submitted and then approved. So what's the realistic time frame looking to possibly have some action being taken place? Because we talked about the portal for a lot now, Jeff. So,
well, I don't have any direct experience, but I think the last time when Royal Melvin was done, I think it may have sat at Treasury waiting to get the award agreements issued for 4 months, maybe.
Right. Okay, but engineering has done stuff. We have a development order now. We have a lot of potential permits. So I guess I apologize. Maybe I didn't ask specifically, but we've made a lot of progress. Would you say in the past few weeks to hopefully have Clement Taylor Park?
Absolutely.
Okay, awesome. I'm good. Thank you,
Councilman Guile.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're
you know
good.
anymore? I missed that. No, but I had you up there. I didn't know if that was part of it before.
Sure.
Oh, because with the sheriff. Sorry.
Last
Yeah.
thing I'll ask is the rewrite. Are we planning on starting to see bits and pieces of it to look at certain parts sooner, small pieces at a time?
Yes, chapter 1, 2, 3 have gone to the LPA, got approval. We're working with chapter 4, which is the bulk of the ordinance, which will come to you along with chapter 1, 2, 3 in September.
Thank you.
This is the sheriff's department. I hope you don't feel like anything I've said up here was attacking you guys. I think you guys do an amazing job. So I am not here questioning how many personnel you're assigning, how many people, how well you're taking care of us. I think you guys do a phenomenal job. One thing that might even help the public understand how busy you guys are here is like some type of police blotter, or where You go online, they say these people were called, these people, it would help give the public an understanding of just how hard you guys work. Because I see it, I just think some other people see these little infractions that are sliding, and they're not potentially, they're crediting that in the wrong direction. But I truly, truly appreciate what you guys are doing, and I don't want to give the impression that I feel like you're not doing enough.
I apologize if I came across like I thought you were saying that, because I certainly didn't. The sheriff's office has the Facebook, a large social media presence, probably one of the largest social media presence in the county where folks can get that information. We also have a sheriff's office application that they can go on and see arrests, and then specific to the city of Destin, we put out a monthly chart showing what activity we have here. I know the council gets that, but that's also available for anyone in the public that would like to see it as well.
Well, I didn't even know you had the Facebook that did that blotter thing, so that's amazing. Thank you very much.
All right, so housekeeping, it sounds like I'm the only one going down to Orlando. Y'all will be missed. I'll represent, I guess. So with that, there's a voting delegation part. So since I'm the, yep, there we go. Yeah, I wasn't gonna ramble.
We just want you to do it.
Yeah.
Go ahead, take care of us.
All right, thank you. All right, last one, the Crab Island resolution. I just want to see if us as a council.
I'll make that resolution to do that for us, Ms. Tom. What do you think?
I was about to. Yeah. So a resolution supporting the denial of the National Park Association's bid is what they're calling it. So their RFP for one owner to be out there. So we do need control over it. I do understand they have foresight that needs to be addressed, but I think we could do this a different way. So at the request of Congressman Gates, he was hoping to get our council support in his efforts to slow down the Department of Interior and try to redirect them into a different bidding RFP. So I'm asking you guys to have a motion to have the city attorney and manager have a resolution for us to look at the next city meeting.
I'll make that motion to do that resolution request.
I'll second it.
All right, any further discussions? All right. I just have it. All right, thank you for that. And land use? Is that even a thing now?
City attorney.
City attorney.
I asked Ray to remove that from the agenda, but I don't have anything. Thank you.
All right. All right, public comments. You guys have waited so long. One more shot at the apple. You say name and address again, just for the record.
Timothy Singleton, 501 Gulf Shore Drive. Comparing Destin to another 15,000 resident town is just not accurate. I mean, you look at those little towns in Alabama or Texas, Oklahoma, a 15,000 person town does not get the traffic we have. It doesn't have millions and millions of people. So trying to have a police force or a sheriff's deputy presence that's similar to those towns, it needs to be at least double that because of the amount of traffic we get, the millions of people a year that come here, because Destin's the place to be in this county. I don't know why Destin can't figure out how to either double the number of Okaloosa County sheriffs we have, or why it's impossible to go down the route and getting a police force when all these other municipalities around us have been able to figure that out. They're similar size. Niceville's almost exactly the same residents. They have 33 officers there. I think it's something worth looking into. I don't know how these other towns are doing it. We're not able to. For the suggestion for Holiday Isle to have an Okaloosa County Sheriff and contract them, we're looking into that, but Holiday Isle also takes care of the landscaping all up and down Gulf Shore Drive because the city doesn't even know that's the city's property. And those beach accesses, we're already paying for the cleanup there from all those people that come down there and park. So we're already bearing some of the costs for city property already, but that is something we're looking into. Definitely. I live right in front of that stop sign. I can see it from my window. After that last council meeting, the next day, there was an Okaloosa County Sheriff's deputy there for about 2 hours. It's the only time I've seen them there unless we call them. I called them this morning because somebody ripped through that stop sign 30 miles an hour as the same exact car that passed me on Gulf Shore Drive because 30 miles an hour was too slow. And I called on him a month ago. Same exact truck, same exact plate, called on him this morning because that's ridiculous. I don't care if it's residents. Like residents that are disregarding all the laws, they need to get just as many tickets, if not more, because they live here and they can't disregard it. And I don't care if that doesn't, you know, if that affects the sheriff's prospects of getting reelected. That's just an absolutely ridiculous argument to make because those people have to follow the law as well. Like I said at the last meeting, it's equal parts. It's residents, it's people from out of town, and it depends on the time of day when they're doing that. But I think we need either more sheriff's deputies, or you need to look back into doing a police department because we're way understaffed. There's nothing against them, but we are way understaffed as far as how many police officers are out here. And that would probably solve a lot of the problems that were discussed tonight. No point in putting stop signs in if people aren't going to stop at them. No reason to send out a park ranger when they can't do anything and people are flipping them off and driving to Crab Island. We need more law enforcement here. Thank you.
Thank you.
John Stevens, 4025 Indian Trail. Oh, thank you. I was hiding in the background. I just wrote down some notes from today's meeting. Before I go into that, one thing, I've invited a couple members from the council to join us in water testing with the Choctawhatchee Basin Alliance. And so if anybody else wants to join, we've been inviting a guest every month, and pretty good stuff that we've been doing out there. So if anyone wants to do it, let me know, and I can definitely get you guys on the next one. Do you want to do it? Okay. I'll contact y'all later.
One at a time.
One at a time, or just don't talk to each other.
I'll do one at a
Or
time.
Kim, you just come with us.
I can be there.
I'm sure. So piggybacking on Joe's Bayou, and you guys were talking about the enforcement, I attended a regional recreational boating safety with the Coast Guard and law enforcement a few months ago. And they actually made a recommendation at all boat launches to actually have a law enforcement parking spot. And that way, law enforcement always was able to make presence, even if they're not there, the parking spot's there at least. That way they know that they can come there at any time. So that's just one suggestion. Another thing that I noted has to do with all the liveries now that we got the moratorium in place. Has Code reached out to all the liveries that are not registered with the city? Because it kind of includes the boating clubs and the bareboat charters. Another thing, I went and drove around with one of the council members a while back, and we noticed that we started seeing some of the city medallion stickers. Some would be on one side of the boat, some would be on the other side of the boat. We would see stickers on one side of the boat from 2021, on the other side would be the current year. There's no standardization for it, so it's kind of hard for Code to actually notice that. Another thing, we even saw a few boats that didn't even have any company names on the side of it. So I guess theoretically they shouldn't even got their medallions until all those things were met. So I'm noticing these couple things. I definitely know Code does not have enough resources, so I'm hoping you guys do budget them for more money down the line. What else do I got? Last thing, boating safety or beach safety. I guess if you're going to be that person, I recently took my kids to the beach, and they thought the beach chair service was the lifeguards. So if my kids thought that, I'm sure there's a lot of tourists that does too. So just something to kind of keep in mind when you are talking to the lifeguards out there. That's all I got.
Thank you. All right, anyone else? Public comments?
All right, Jim Wood, 3790 Misty Way. The one reason I came tonight was to say I understand buying the property by the bridge. I'm not a big fan of it but if we're going to do it, one of the conversations that I've been wanting to have for a few years since I was on the TPO is the replacement of the Marler Bridge. Anything we do there that does not take that into consideration, we're going to stick a knife in our head. So don't forget that. And there's been I could talk about the sheriff's office for all night. Y'all know I'm a big supporter of the sheriff's office. My first ride along years ago was a slick sleeve, nobody deputy named Jason Fulgham. Now he's our captain back there, all right? So I've had a lot of history with him. I've done a lot of research on the sheriff's office. And if you want to compare, knock yourself out. You're going to be wasting your time. And when you say Niceville's got a bigger police force, they got to double to triple the millage rate. So have a nice day. If that's what you want, make the decision. Okay, you can pay for whatever you want if you have the money. If you vote to do that high of a millage rate, I'll see you in the next election. So, thank you.
All right, up next.
How is everyone tonight? Good? Sorry I was late. I could have spoken earlier, but I'll speak now. Marcy Bell, 3 Gulf Breeze Court. Let's see, bed tax. Maybe we should speak with the League of Cities about working on the state legislature about changing how much money is spent with bed tax for law enforcement and stuff, because I know that they control how much that percentage is. I haven't checked in it lately, so I don't know if it's changed, but I know, what was it, 51% had to go back to advertising? So maybe we can look at maybe changing that, increasing it, so we can help with I think that's where it's going to have to change to get more money. I have a lot of other thoughts, but I have other things to talk about. So, Councilman Schmidt, if you'll talk to me later, there are documents in the public records of the city regarding beach flags. I found it over the weekend accidentally, and because you brought it up, I will talk to you about it, and then you're that appointed person now. So the last thing I want to talk about is I want to talk about Crab Island, and I want to talk about it real quick. So I wasn't here for previous comments. When I drove up, there were a bunch of kids out in the parking lot, kids because they're younger than me. I don't mean any disrespect. So I don't know what was said here before I got here, so please forgive me if I'm repeating anything. I just wanted to let you know that the federal government has controlled all of that land, believe it or not, since the state of Florida became a state, because they came under control under the Secretary of War. And I also wanted to let you know that Franklin Delano Roosevelt also had established it as the Santa Rosa Island National Monument. I did my homework. 1946, the National Monument was abolished by Congress, but the land was reserved for use by the War Department for all of the bases and all of that around here. Then I want to tell you about how the Secretary of War became the Department of Interior in 1947, and in 1971, Gulf Islands National Seashore was established, and Crab Island was a part of that. So for all of those years, it's always been controlled by the U.S. government, all of it. It wasn't added, it wasn't taken away from, it was always added, it was always a part of it. The only other thing I want to say was, just looking, I think I'm the only person in the room that attended all of the Crab Island Floating Structure Committees, all of them, 100% of them at the county, all of the National Parks Service meetings in reference to Crab Island. Those were in 2018 and 2019. I met with my county commissioners individually, and I attended all the county meetings in reference to the Crab Island. So I just wanted to say that there's also a 562-page document put out by the National Park Service in 2014 called the General Management Plan and Environmental Impact Statement, and I have read probably most of all of it. So when you take into consideration where you want to feel about Crab Island, I'd advise you to look at Biscayne Bay, National Parks in the Caribbean, Canaveral National Seashore, and all of the parks out west, and see what they allow and what they don't allow for all of that, because that's kind of something that I study. That's it. Just take it into consideration. You guys voted on the resolution. I'm just trying to get all this out in 3 minutes. Bye.
Good job. All right. Anyone else? All right, seeing none, I will close. Oh, there you go.
Man, you're so lucky you didn't hit that gavel.
I know. I was watching him. I was watching Mr. Perry, to be honest with you. I thought he was going to shoot up here. First off, thank you very much for buying One Harbor Boulevard. We have a Harbor CRA meeting this Wednesday, and I'll be presenting something. I can't talk about it, but because I got some in the room, but we got some big plans that could be really good for that. Stop signs. I pity the sheriff's deputy that pulled over Miss Muriel and gave her a ticket. That man had cojones. I'll give him that. But putting stop signs and speed humps, all you're doing is penalizing the people who follow the rules. And I think a presence is the big thing. Mr. Bagby, I agree with you. We were talking about putting someone at the boat launch on Holiday Isle. Presence is a big thing. They see that, they slow down. And Okaloosa County Sheriff's Department is one of the best I've ever seen. I don't think they're understaffed most of the time. I think that they just need to have an influx when we have our influx. When we swell 4 times the size of our normal population, anybody's going to be overwhelmed with that much. And I think that budgeting somebody for some traffic control and trying to get a few more deputies in here in the 100 days of summer would be a big thing. But thank you very much. Please don't put stop signs on every stop on Kelly Street. I understand. And the one in the turn is definitely that 5-way. That one can totally get on board with that. But every other one, we got to just have some presence. We can't regulate morality in this.
Right. I mean, I know it's the majority of it is the locals.
You don't need a comment.
No. But
God dang it. You got 60 seconds if there's anything else.
I can't believe I agreed with Marcy Bell tonight on a couple.
We have more in common than we would like to admit. All right, meeting adjourned.